Don't take my word for it. Look that mess up, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? KCE, King
An
Chaka.
educated and united public cannot be controlled. Get organized.
Learn to be active.
Yeah.
Looks like we got us another hit.
You tell her to get away from me. She's crazy.
Choose your destiny.
Go right. Go forward. But never ever back.
An educated and united public cannot be controlled. Get organized.
Investigate both sides of the argument. Come up with your own conclusions.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? KCE, King Chaka.
Hey, how y'all doing out there? How y'all feel? Remember, an educated public cannot be controlled. Learn to be active. The views and events expressed here are totally whack. They're not necesariamente the views of anyone. ¿Cómo estás? Bien, bien, bien. ¿Podemos ayudarnos más? Sí se puede. Don't take my word for it. Look that mess up. How y'all feeling? You feeling good out there? We're back. It's been busy week. Finals week. Still not finished. Got 2 more to go. I'm feeling good though. I was exhausted the last few weeks. Exhausted. Catching my second wind now because I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. It's motivating me a bit. Happy about that. Anyways, so, excuse me. Today, the name of the show today is Questions Instead of Answers. Questions instead of answers. This is the idea that instead of being confident that you know, instead try to find the right questions or the best questions. The best questions that you can come up with. The ones that you don't have the answer to, you don't have the answers to, Maybe no one has the answers to, but the point is the pursuit of knowledge, I think that a lot of us are confident in our ignorance, We don't know everything. So let's learn together, Let's be humble, have some humility, I think a lot of that is what's missing, I was watching a video about, they were talking about how the left brain dominates the world now. Like it has to do with the, the left brain and the right brain working together to help keep you alive. One focuses on the macro and the other one focuses on the micro. And then it has to do with like your digits or whatever, like the immediate things, the things that are immediate. And then your brain tricks you into thinking that you understand things because you know what's going to happen when you manipulate them. Like when you touch something, you move it or whatever, you're confident that that's what's going to happen. And then the other side of your brain focuses on everything else, like the big picture of things, you know, to try to keep you out of danger, keep you safe, you know. It's that as a society, we have fallen into this situation where, because we know science and stuff like that, and we know that certain things will happen if we do certain things, it gives us this an illusion of truly understanding things, you know, because that part of your brain needs you to be confident, right? And that's okay. The problem is that it's so much that we don't understand. It's so much that we're missing. And, you know, I don't know. It's like one of the things I think about is how people rush to a red light. Like I'm getting off the freeway and I'm trying to get over to my right through a couple of lanes so that I can make a right turn into like a shopping center or whatever it is. And you have a car coming down. The light is red. This car is speeding, preventing me to get over or risking a wreck to get to the light. And for me, that makes no sense. And it's super irritating to me because you're not going anywhere. You're coming to a red light. There's no point in running me off the road so that you can get to the red light first. Like there's no, like, I don't see it. But again, that goes back to a certain part of your brain that is over dominant, that's being used more. That's what it was saying in the video. It's that part gets used more, so it causes an imbalance. And I think that's where we are as a society. We're in an imbalance where we focus on the immediate, the stuff that stimulates us for the moment, you know, and we completely miss the big picture. Like we're not even trying to see. It's like seeing the forest, seeing the trees and not being able to see the forest, you know. It's like you can't really look at both of them at the same time, you know. You have to take a step back to see the forest, you know. And that's what we're doing. We're not seeing the forest. Am I making any sense? I'm all over the place. I might have to play a bit of that video to try to explain some of that. Or I'll come back to this because right now I feel like I didn't do a good job in explaining where my head is at on that. You know, there was a time where I tried to write scripts for this show, but the stuff came out really choppy and robotic, and the feeling wasn't there, you know, and it was boring, you know, and I didn't like that. So I decided that it's better to kind of come off the top. I do preliminary ideas, you know, and think about it or whatever while I'm driving and stuff, but I don't write it down because I don't want to feel obligated to follow the script, if you will. And I kind of live my life that way too, you know, for better or for worse, you know. I kind of just go with the flow, if you will. I have faith in the universe, you know. I believe in the universe. I really do. And I feel like for me, it's better to ride the waves, if you will, you know, like let it flow, like go with the flow. Now, there's times where resistance is needed. Like anybody that knows me knows that I will give people a hard time when it comes to certain things. But for the most part, I just like, you know, no worries, man. That's my motto. No worries, no worries. I'm always saying that. I think about a song, and it's like, I would tell you that it's all good, but it ain't, you know. Um, and that's where we are right now in the world. I could tell you that it's all good, but it ain't. It's not. It's not all good. It's hard to find that. And it's really difficult to me to see people who are, maybe they're affluent, maybe they're famous, whatever it is. And they kind of live their life with the blinders on and try to just focus on themselves and basically pretend that they're happy and pretend that all of this stuff that's going on in the world doesn't affect them. And I just feel like, that's an illusion. That's a delusion to think that these things that's happening around the world don't affect you, because they do. Just the people. You don't even have to look around the world. You can look in your neighborhood, and you're doing great. You're fine, but there's misery all around you, and you wanna. It has a negative impact on you in lots of ways, and one of them is, you have to turn off your emotions. Like, you have to turn off your feelings, to be able to really enjoy life. Now, there has to be a balance. You can't be completely, thoroughly like engulfed in what's going on in the world and what's going on around you in your neighborhood or whatever, the misery of others. You can't do that either. That's not healthy. But the other side is not healthy either. It has negative impacts. It causes you to turn off parts of your brain. It causes you to not really enjoy life like you think that you are, because you're not in the moment. You're not feeling it really. Anyways, that's enough of the soapbox today. Questions instead of answers is the point, Let's seek for answers. Let's find clarity together. Let's stop dictating to each other, like we're so confident, Nobody knows everything. Like, what they say, a wise man knows that he knows nothing at all. Now, there's a quote to live by right there. No matter how much knowledge you have gained, the knowledge is infinite, so you haven't scratched the surface. You can give instruction to people in the areas that you are an expert, but you have to take instruction from others in the areas that you are not. And we can't all pretend that we just know everything all the time. Like, we got to have some humility. We got to be aware that we could possibly be wrong about that thing that we feel like we're an expert on. I think that the people with the most knowledge tend to have the least amount of confidence. And the people with the least amount of knowledge have the most amount of confidence. Like, it's a sad state of affairs. Anywho, where do we begin? So much going on. You know what? The breaking news right now is Israel again. They were attacked. Apparently, the post that I read was saying that the Iron Dome was hacked and it didn't perform properly. Who's to say what's the reality with that? It could be the fact that, it was used heavily recently when Iran struck them. But now we got Hezbollah, and let's go into that a bit. We'll start with that because that's the recent breaking news. Let me find it. It says 2,000 casualties. Is that right? Times of India. I might have to read that one because I think it has sound. This other one says, let's do this one. Yeah, I'm gonna have to read it because it has sound in it that's gonna get me dinged with copyright. So we're gonna read it. It's one of these info videos. So the headline says 2,000 casualties, 700 rockets, Iron Dome destroyed. Hezbollah chilling. Claim strike. Fear in Israel. I don't know if these casualties. I don't know if these numbers are correct here. It says Lebanon's Hezbollah group makes big claim. Okay, so maybe these numbers are coming from them. Because the what I read was saying that only like military sites were hit, or airport or something like that. Let's see. It says 2,000 plus Israel soldiers killed or injured in Hezbollah attacks. If those numbers are right, that's crazy. It says Hezbollah's back-to-back attacks pound Israeli military bases. Well, that's what I heard too. Military bases that were hit. It says Iran-backed group claims 1650 OPS against Israel since October 7. So are they doing are those numbers over time, or is it from the recent attack? It says over 2,000 Israeli soldiers killed or injured in 200 days of attacks. Okay, that makes more sense with the numbers. Hezbollah claims. That's still probably an exaggeration. Maybe it's not. But I tell you what, our media hasn't been covering that. And then maybe that's why I feel like the numbers are exaggerated. It says Hezbollah says it carried out 1650 operations on Israel since war began in Gaza. I gotta make sure y'all can hear me. I have nobody in here. Says Hezbollah released detailed statement on Israel ops as war drags on for 200 days. Hezbollah's big claims. 2,000 casualties inflicted on enemy, 352 artillery shellings, 55 drone strikes, 727 surface-to-surface rockets, 546 guided missiles launched. Destroyed 344 bunkers and fortifications, damaged 328 technical equipment, destroyed 722 settlement units, took out 92 military vehicles, attacked 67 command centers. Destroyed 5 drones, damaged 5 Iron Dome missile platforms, attacked 2 factories of the Israeli military. Over 230,000 Israeli settlers displaced in the north due to Hezbollah attacks. IDF also published a new data on its operation since Hamas' October 7th attack. In Lebanon, over 4,700 Hezbollah positions hit, according to IDF's data. So they're going to talk about the other side now. IDF says it killed more than 330 terror operatives, mostly members of Hezbollah. Iran-backed Hezbollah group has been attacking Israel positions almost daily since October 7. The Lebanon-based group has vowed to keep up Israel's ops till war continues. Hezbollah previously fought with Israel in 2000 and 2206, claims victory in both. This is definitely was translated because the wording is kind of weird. So when was this posted? What's the date for this? 2 days ago. Okay. But there was a recent deal that happened tonight. Let's see. Is this it? Which one? Let's see.
Israel. Hezbollah and the no peace for Passover in Israel. Hezbollah and the IDF exchanged attacks in the north, while down in Gaza, Israeli forces continue preparations for the push against Rafah.
Well, here at home, a bill to send more aid to the Jewish state is on its way to the president's desk. Meanwhile, anti-Israel.
Why do I feel like the way that they're talking sounds like they're talking to like a 2-year-old or something, like a 7-year-old? Like, was that guy talking extra slow? Or was it just me? Is he buzzing?
Gaza, Israeli forces continue preparations for the push against Rafah.
Well, here at home, a bill
For the push against Rafah. Was he struggling with the teleprompter? What was going on there?
to send more aid to the Jewish state is on its way to the president's desk. Meanwhile, anti-Israel protests on college campuses continue to spread. CBN's Julie Stahl reports.
While Congress has approved another $26 billion in aid to Israel, pro-Palestinian protests are cropping up on campuses across America. Since they began at New York's Columbia University last week, the demonstrations have spread to schools from coast to coast, some becoming violent. In Cal Polytech in Humboldt, students pushed and screamed at police. At Columbia, Mayor Adams warned of outside agitators stirring up violence. The school has shut down on-campus classes, and Jewish students say they fear for their safety.
I'd say the majority of my friends, especially Jewish friends, feel a sense of insecurity at this time.
Speaking to CBN's Gary Lane, the former spokeswoman for the Department of Education during the Trump years had this advice.
The schools 100% need to make clear to their students and their faculty that anti-Semitic hate will not be tolerated. They, quite frankly, should stop admitting people who openly sympathize with terror groups. I think that is a great step one. But in the immediate time right now, these schools need to take an absolute stand that they will protect their Jewish students and they will keep learning going.
There are calls for Columbia's president to resign, and House Speaker Mike Johnson is expected to hold a press conference at the campus today. President Biden spoke out against the protests, but he also criticized those who aren't pro-Palestinian.
I condemn the anti-Semitic protests. That's why I've set up a program to deal with that. I also condemn those who don't understand what's going on with the Palestinians.
In Israel,
that music in the background is so surreal. It makes me think of the Boondocks episode, how like those people were so disconnected from things. And that's how I feel about a lot of these people, Biden included. They're disconnected from things. Like you got that piano playing in the background and, you know, hors d'oeuvres going around, people serving them or whatever. Like I say, it's that episode 1 from the Boondocks, season 1. And it was like the people were clapping. He was like, they clap for anything. They don't care about anything. Like, yeah.
the fighting didn't stop for the Passover holiday as the IDF and Hezbollah terrorists exchanged strikes. 2 reserve brigades have been mobilized for what's expected to be the push into Rafah in Gaza, the last Hamas stronghold. Many Israelis set an empty space at their Seder tables for the hostages and said a prayer for their return. Psychologist Naomi Moore, who works with the hostage families, told CBN News this war has taken many back to the Holocaust.
Some grandparents have actually experienced the Holocaust and they feel that it's happening again. and others that haven't experienced it but know about it, and we all know. So it reminds people of being neglected, being alone.
Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Well, we vowed never again, and on our watch, never again. Let it not happen here in the United States, in Europe, or anywhere in the world. Jews should always be able to live free and be able to practice their religion however they see fit. In the words of George Washington, this isn't toleration, this is equality. And they need to have it, and it needs to be established, especially on our college campuses.
This guy talking on slow, sounds like he buzzing. He sounds like an evangelical preacher, like one of the ones from one of those big churches. Anyways, this particular news report was extremely biased in the favor of Israelis, clearly. And the majority of the news have been along the same lines of this. Yeah. If you don't know, now you know, you know. That's still not the story that I'm looking for.
Middle East, where a missile attack by the Hezbollah terror group on an Israeli convoy has killed an Israeli civilian. This is actually a post on social media that came in from the Israel War Room. The Israeli civilian murdered last night by Hezbollah terrorist missile fire has now officially been identified. He was killed while performing infrastructure work near Israel's northern border. May his memory be a blessing. Do want to talk more about the situation there that is developing over on the border. So let's bring in a friend of the show, David Dowd, senior fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. As always, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us today.
Thank you for having me, and I wish I were here under more pleasant circumstances.
For sure. Well, I do want to ask you what we know about this attack by Hezbollah on that Israeli convoy so far. A lot of the details still emerging at this point.
Yeah, it's like you just said. From what we know is that there was an Israeli civilian, Sharif Suad, who was killed. He's Bedouin Israeli. He was, it appears to be contracted by the IDF to carry out infrastructure work in the Avdov Sheba Farms area. This is the area that's in dispute between Lebanon and Israel. Lebanon claims it as its own. Israel says that it belongs to Syria and was captured during the Six-Day War, and that its final fate will be resolved during negotiations with the Syrians. There's no border there. As much as this is a critical area, an area where clashes have occurred between the IDF and Hezbollah, going as far back as, if I recall correctly, October of 2000. After the IDF withdrew from South Lebanon, Hezbollah started taking claim to this area, and the Lebanese government followed suit. And there have been clashes ongoing ever since. There's no border there. There's nothing to really prevent infiltration. And it seems like Sharif was killed while he was conducting some kind of infrastructure work, perhaps putting up a barrier. The attack itself seems to be part of this ongoing series of attack and retaliation going on between the Israelis and Hezbollah ever since Hezbollah initiated its ongoing attacks against Israel on October 8th in solidarity with Hamas. And they happen to have killed a civilian. The Israelis have counterstruck. They've said they've hit back the sources of the anti-tank fire and different Hezbollah targets in South Lebanon. This is, again, par for the course. We may see deeper action by the IDF. It tends to be that when an Israeli, a civilian or soldier is wounded or killed, the Israelis tend to strike deeper and make Hezbollah hurt a little bit more.
This topic, I'm still not seeing what I saw. It shows that how the media, it's tough, man. It's really tough. Like I say again and again, wartime propaganda, Hezbollah deepest strike into Israel since Gaza war began 4 days ago. No, something happened today. Where is it? Yeah, they want to make it look like Israel is so strong. So that's part of the reason. Okay, is this it? I don't want to play something that's going to get me dinged. It's another one of those info videos. Let's see this. There's super dramatic music. Hezbollah rockets bomb IDF bases. Powerful video shows horror. Israel on edge. Full-blown war zone. It says Hezbollah creates mayhem in Israel. Iran proxy group launches back-to-back attacks. Unleashed volley of rockets and missiles. Israel convoy ambush. Military bases struck. Hezbollah precision attack on Israel. As Hezbollah strikes deep into Israel territory. Hezbollah and IDF trade retaliatory attacks. Israel braces for potential escalation. Speculation arises over Israelis' plans, with Hezbollah setting stage for war. Israel unflinched by Hezbollah's ultimatum. Tensions between Hezbollah and Israel persist, with recent reports indicating an escalation in hostilities. In the latest developments, Hezbollah reportedly struck a gathering of Israeli troops near the Al-Dahariya military site on April 25th. Today is the 28th. Well, it just turned the 28th. It's the 27th, 19 minutes ago. Israeli troops suffered casualties amidst the escalating conflict, which stemmed from perceived Israeli aggression in southern Lebanon. Additionally, Hezbollah fighters carried out a drone strike against Ein Margoliat military base. The clashes intensified as Hezbollah's artillery units shelled a group of Israeli soldiers entering the Malakia post. Later, Hezbollah launched guided missiles, artillery shells, and rockets at an Israeli military convoy near Rorasat al-Alam outpost. In response to the attacks, Israeli military deployed a smoke screen to facilitate the withdrawal of casualties. The latest incident marks a dangerous escalation in the ongoing conflict between the two adversaries. Yeah, they've been skirmishing at that border for a while. Israeli and Hezbollah forces have engaged tit-for-tat exchanges since October 7th when Hamas launched an attack on Israel. Since October 7th, at least 376 people have been killed in Lebanon, mostly Hezbollah fighters, but also 70 civilians. It is also to be noted that Iran's most capable proxy, Hezbollah, is said to have some 150,000 rockets and precision-guided munitions. It's important to understand that Hezbollah is not Iran. They don't control. Iran doesn't control Hezbollah. They do what they want. Let's get into let's look at what do I want to go into. Let's look at some headlines right quick. Let's look at that. Let's look at some AP headlines. Start to get moving a little bit. We might come back to that topic. I'm not sure though. Top headline: anti-war protesters dig in as some schools close encampments after reports of anti-Semitic activity. Student anti-war protests at the U.S. college campuses are digging in and vowing to keep the demonstrations going. Some universities moved to shut down encampments after reports of anti-Semitic activity among the protesters. You'd have to be up under a rock if you hadn't heard about any of this stuff. And the police coming in and cracking down on a lot of the campuses, you know, and the coverage of this has been very slanted. The images are floating around the internet like crazy, though. You can see what's actually happening. Media doesn't have to tell you what your perspective should be on it. Let's see. Harvey Weinstein hospitalized after he returns to New York from upstate prison. Yeah, this guy, they overturned his charge. You know, if this guy wasn't so rich and famous or whatever, I really don't think he would have been able to do that. This headline, it says, Hamas is reviewing an Israeli proposal for ceasefire in Gaza as planned Rafah offensive looms. Yeah, I was reading on that, and they were saying that if, you know, recognize a Palestinian state, and boom, peace, release the hostages, all that. Israel is not going for that. It says how a 911 call for trespassing escalated to an injection of a powerful sedative on one man's death. Yeah, that, and recently the EMT was sentenced, but he got probation, I want to say. It's been years since this happened. Other people went to jail that were involved in that. Let's see. Freaking crazy, crazy times. I don't really see anything I want to go into on that. Let's back up a bit. The freaking Israel thing is not the only thing that's going on in the world. Other things are getting overshadowed as a result. And I was watching a video, they were saying that the way that they were covering the college protests are, you know, it's taking over like the media cycle, and it's also burying other stories. You know, one of the stories was that they found all those people dead in Palestine mass grave. Another story that hasn't been getting covered much is related to the Congo, and we talk about genocide in Palestine, but there's more. Here, let's do a little bit of this. Am I sharing? No, I'm not. Freaking, you know, I don't know. People tend to choose which lives are more valuable than others or whatever, like what you should be outraged on about. The media tends to give you a narrative about what you should be outraged upon. And a lot of people just kind of follow suit. And I think that related, as much as I sympathize with the college campuses protests, would they be outraged enough to protest related to some people being genocided in Africa?
The DR Congo is the second largest country in Africa and home to a deadly conflict which has killed millions and forced millions more to flee their homes. Attacks are nothing new, but they're seemingly becoming more frequent. These attacks are linked to a multitude of rebel groups with historic connections to DRC's neighboring countries, Rwanda, Burundi, and Uganda. As a result, thousands of protesters in the DRC have been calling for the government to sever diplomatic relations with Rwanda, despite peace talks to ease ongoing diplomatic tensions. So, what's causing the crisis in the DRC? Well, the honest answer is, it's complicated. Mineral-rich eastern regions like Ituri, South and North Kivu, and Maniema produce global supplies of cobalt, the metal used in batteries which power our tech devices. The area also has deposits of titanium, copper, diamonds, and gold. For more than 30 years, this area has been at the center of proxy wars and violent exploitation. In early 2022, Belgian gold dealer Alan Goetz was sanctioned by the United States government for allegedly smuggling hundreds of millions of dollars worth of gold from the DRC. The US said the illicit movement of gold provides revenue to armed groups that threaten the peace, security, and stability of the DRC. Alan Goetz denied the allegations against him, but a battle for the nation's vast mineral wealth is not the only factor at play.
So, you know, you have factions that want to exploit those resources, and one of the ways that they can do that is by funding these rebel groups who, you know, maybe they're just kind of like mercenaries and they're just trying to get paid. Sometimes they have ideological views that they have, or, you know, issues that they have, and then they get funding, you know, weapons and stuff like that, you know, and it causes this chaos to the point where, you know, the ones that want to continue to exploit the resources continue to do that because, you know, of the drama, the conflict allows cover for them to do that.
Armed groups, which are in the hundreds, also play a role in the destabilization. Violence by armed groups is worsened by ethnic divisions in a country with more than 200 tribes.
Yeah, so if you have one group, they already don't like them, you know what I mean? We don't like those guys on the other side of the tracks, and it's been historically an issue with it. But when you have outside factions that come in and arm one side or the other or both sides, you know, it escalates the situation to a point where it wouldn't necessarily be to that point, you know, because of all of the mineral rich, you know, all the resources that can be exploited. You know, the main thing is they don't want the outside people, they don't want the local people to be able to benefit from that stuff. And they also want that narrative of these people just can't really get their stuff together.
Who is being impacted?
On vient seulement pour enquêter, mais juste lorsqu'ils vont payer les gens qui ont mort ici, qui vont les payer, qui vont nous aider?
It's often civilians who are impacted the most. In May of 2022, nearly 100 people were killed in a string of brutal attacks. Victims included young children. Later that month, officials found 17 decomposing bodies by a riverbed in Ituri, some having been decapitated. It's estimated that 6 million people have been killed in this ongoing conflict, and many more have fled.
6 million, you know, the number 34,000, something like that. I keep hearing that over and over. related to Palestine, and they're like mostly women and children, 33,000, 34,000, somewhere up in there. And right now, well, here we're talking about a 6 million number. And all the images that come down my timeline are of, all the atrocities coming out of Palestine. I don't see many of these. I do somewhat do because I'm plugged in, but most of the stuff that comes down my timeline are images coming out of Palestine.
Who are the key players? Countries in the Great Lakes have frequently traded accusations of plots to destabilize one another by using the many rebel groups operating in the region. The relationship between Rwanda and the DR Congo has especially got tense. The head of the African Union, Macky Sall, has called on the two countries to pursue peace. What's being done about it? Persistent death and destruction has made Congolese nationals hostile towards intervention by their neighbors, making longer-term stability difficult. But some things are being done.
So yeah, this is another thing that's happening where they're escalating the distrust through the countries that they're sitting next to each other. Like I'm gonna cover this story next. The one about in the UK, they're talking about deporting people to Rwanda. And then it's like Rwanda's on board with this. What is the other country? Oh, I don't want to say the wrong name. I think it's Kenya. I want to say it's Kenya. It's kind of not necessarily involved in this particular conflict, but it's the same kind of thing that's going on there related to, pitting these countries against each other, by giving them money or whatever to get them to kind of like turn their back on their neighbors, you know what I mean? Try to screw over their neighbors. And this like causes the conflict to be worse, and they don't trust each other. It just creates a chaos that benefits, outside interests.
In 2021, President Felix Tshisekedi imposed military rule in North Kivu and Ituri provinces, but that's done little to ease the unrest. Uganda and the DRC are currently on a joint military operation against the ADF rebel group. This is the largest foreign intervention in DRC by any organization other than the UN. Shortly after joining the East African Community in April 2022, President Tshisekedi asked for intervention from member states over DR Congo security crisis. Kenya offered to host peace talks between rebels and Congolese officials. Attempts to get rebel groups to join ceasefire talks have faced setbacks. Mistrust among some of the regional leaders hasn't helped matters either. At a meeting in Kenya in June, there was some disagreement about deploying a joint regional force. So it's fair to say that most people, if not everybody, wants to see an end to this conflict. But with tensions so deeply embedded into the DNA of the country, it's difficult to predict when a resolution to DRC's problems will come.
Yeah, they wanted to draw out forever. There was an interview. The guy was, they were asking questions, Rishi Sunak. And he was like, my people are from like DR Congo, and if you guys deport us to Rwanda, we're at war with Rwanda, and so you guys are going to deport us to a country that we're at war with. And I'm not sure if it was Rishi Sunak, but I think it was. And he was like, what, is that another country or whatever? Like the thing is, these people don't even understand the situation like at all. They don't get it. They don't, but they're making decisions that they think are good or whatever. And it's how can you do that when you haven't even done your due diligence to understand what the hell is actually going on? And it just shows that they really just don't care. This is
allows the UK to.
This is it right here. It's not the clip of the questioning, but I'm gonna try to find that clip.
Our next story is from the UK, where Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has won a major battle. The British Parliament has finally passed the Rwanda bill. It's a controversial law. It allows the UK to deport asylum seekers, packing them off to Rwanda, a country in East Central Africa. The British Parliament has passed this law. Now it awaits the monarch's approval. When King Charles III signs it, the law will come into force. So what does this really mean? What is this Rwanda bill? Why is it controversial? How will it work? And will it really help Rishi Sunak? To make sense of this bill, we'll use a metaphor. Do you know what a scarecrow is? It's usually a figure or model made of straw, shaped like a human, and put up on a farm. What is the scarecrow's purpose? As the name suggests, it is to scare away crows. It looks like a human being. The hope is that crows will think it is a person, believe it is dangerous, and stay away. The straw figure acts as a deterrent. It deters or discourages crows from landing in the farm. And that is exactly what the UK's Rwanda bill is, a deterrent with no real power, but something they hope will keep immigrants away. And here's how it works. The Rwanda bill says that immigrants can be deported. Not all illegal immigrants, just people who arrive from a safe country, like France. Migrants often enter the UK via France after crossing the English Channel on small boats. Now, everyone who has entered the UK this way from France is eligible for deportation, illegal immigrants. That's about 52,000 people. They can be sent to Rwanda without having their cases heard in court. So far, these refugees got to approach British courts. They could ask the court for asylum, but not anymore. Even if a refugee's case is genuine, it will be Rwanda's call to make. The UK is washing its hands of the matter. Now, on the surface, this law sounds like it has teeth. Everyone who entered illegally will be kicked out. No court hearings, no exceptions. But think about it for a moment. 52,000 people is no joke. Imagine having to round up that many immigrants, then putting them on flights without hurting them in the process and making sure they're medically fit to fly, also simultaneously fighting off legal challenges from lawyers representing these migrants. How fast do you think the UK can accomplish that for 52,000 people? Let me show you some figures, in fact. The maximum number of people that Britain deported in 1 year was about 15,000. 15,000 people in a year deported. This was way back in the year 2012. Since then, the number has decreased to about 5,000 a year. That's how many people they're able to deport. Even if Rishi Sunak manages to bring deportations back up to 15,000, it would take him 3.5 years to send the migrants to Rwanda. And these are the 52,000 presently in Britain. It'll take him 3.5 years. Meanwhile, more of them keep coming. Last year, almost 30,000 migrants came via the English Channel. So if you do the math, the Rwanda plan doesn't really work. Unless, of course, the people stop coming. If they're too scared to come to the UK in the first place, if the channel crossings stop, if the inflow is lower than the deportations, only then will the UK's illegal immigration problem end. And that, you could say, is the real purpose of the Rwanda bill. It is not so much about sending people to the African country. It is about scaring people who are thinking about entering the UK. Now, Sunak has been given permission to put up a scarecrow. And his plan is already in motion.
But we are ready. The first flight will leave in 10 to 12 weeks. Now, of course, that is later than we wanted, but we have always been clear that processing will take time.
Sunak says the first flight will leave in 10 to 12 weeks, which means July. It's still a few months away, but look at the impact.
If, before I came here, you say that, they sent me in Rwanda. I never come here.
Would you have come to the UK if you'd have known you could end up in Rwanda?
Never. Never.
Do you think it will stop other people coming now?
Yeah. Yeah. I say to all asylum don't come into UK.
So it seems to be working already, acting as a deterrent. If this continues, then Sunak may actually bring immigration numbers down, but we will not know for sure until the first flights take off, until July at least. So we have to wait and watch. But Rishi Sunak did win something yesterday. He won a major political battle. His flagship immigration law has passed, and this has happened just before the election. Now, we know that Sunak is deeply unpopular. His party is set to lose the next election. So if he can get even one symbolic flight off the ground to Rwanda, he might win back some votes for his party. Politics, after all, is more about emotions and messaging than facts or effectiveness. So Sunak has a new election gimmick. What about the other side of the story? What about Rwanda? Well, they're getting millions to take in the refugees. They've already received 290 million pounds. They'll get another 100 million at least, plus 20,000 pounds for each migrant they've taken. And 120 million pounds after just 300 migrants reach Rwanda. Sunak's office has refused to make the final bill public, but Rwanda is definitely making a fortune, thanks to British taxpayers. So the African country might be the only real winner in this story.
Can't find the clip I was looking for. I had it, but I lost it. I guess I don't know where I put it. Anyways, so that's what's happening with that. There's a little bit more. Maybe I'll play on this topic. Just a little bit more here.
Too intense in the city.
A South African peacekeeping convoy patrols the road between Sake and Goma in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. It's part of a South African regional mission supporting Congolese soldiers to protect the North Kivu capital Goma from advancing M23 rebels. Thousands of people have been forced to leave villages around Sake during heavy fighting.
We saw soldiers running away from their positions as fighting erupted between them and the rebels. That's why we left. The fighting was too intense in the city.
The situation in Sake is very bad, with heavy fighting between soldiers and M23 rebels. They have attacked with heavy guns and bombs fell on the city. This is why we are leaving for Goma.
Government soldiers and UN peacekeepers have been struggling to contain M23 rebels since late 2021, when the armed group relaunched its rebellion. The United Nations backs government accusations that Rwanda is supporting the fighters, but Rwanda denies this.
As you know, the situation on the ground is very worrying and alarming. It raises the risk of a regional explosion, or at any rate of a very strong intensification, with a regional characteristic or an increased regional component, with the involvement of different countries in the region to a greater extent.
President Felix Tshisekedi promised to deal with the violence in eastern Congo during his re-election campaign. But barely a month since he won December elections, rebels are defying his authority. The UN has urged the government to send reinforcements to Ituri, North and South Kivu provinces, as peacekeepers prepare to withdraw from the DRC by the end of the year. Barbara Angopa, Al Jazeera.
Just a whole mess. Anyways, the whole reason why I wanted to cover this is because, you know, the media, you know, the college campuses deal is dominating the media cycle, you know, and then we're talking about people dying in Palestine, and somehow this stuff kind of doesn't get covered. You know, one life is more valuable than another. You know, I guess it depends on what country they're in. You know, like I say, not to belittle the situation in Palestine is horrible. It's just that the narrative gets presented and created, and people just follow suit. It's like whenever there was that time when people were changing their profile pictures, like pray for Boston or pray for Ukraine or whatever, and changing their profile picture to a flag or whatever. And it's just like trendy, you know, it's like everyone else is doing it. So, you know, this is what I'm supposed to care about today. So I'm going to care about this today, you know. Let me see where I want to go. There's so much, you know, and I'm only going to do this one show this week. So I got to be selective. I have a lot of stuff that I want to talk about here. Where to go next? Give me a second, y'all. Let's switch gears. We're gonna come back to some of this because I don't want to stay on it too long. I'm gonna let it flow and then see how it pops up. So let's switch gears. Check this out. Am I sharing? Yes. So change in price since 2019 by food item. Cocoa, 345%, orange juice, 260%, olive oil, 219%. I use a lot of olive oil too. Sometimes I can't buy it because I'm like, oh, the price is killer. Sugar, 120%, fruit snacks, 77%, cooking oil, 54%, chocolate bar, 52%, applesauce, 51%, beef, 51%, mayonnaise, 50%, loaf of bread, 42%, eggs, 40%, milk, 40%, cereal, 38%, butter, 24%. And like, I don't have to tell you, like, we don't need these numbers to know that the prices of food has been higher. Like, you have to buy food. Like, that's not a bill that you can like not pay or whatever. So at the end of the month and you're looking at what you spent, you know that food is taking up a larger portion of your budget. For most of us here in the United States now, I can't speak for everywhere else, but here in the States, we all know that it's been higher. We can feel it, definitely. It changes your shopping habits. It's changed my shopping habits since the pandemic. I don't shop the same way. And I kind of don't really have a choice but to shop differently. It says, inflation has officially been at 3% or higher for exactly 3 years. The average American is now paying nearly 40% more for groceries than they were paying in 2019. Over 100 food items have seen inflation above 50% since 2019. How is this a strong economy? You know, it depends on your perspective. If you're owner of a grocery store chain, then it's a strong economy for you, you know. For the average person, not so much, you know. 50%, that's huge. 50% since 2019. That's painful, you know. The combination of that with the interest rates related to homes, the increasing in rent. This is like pinching the average person. It's destroying the middle class. It says the worst part, thanks to shrinkflation, we're actually paying more for portions that are smaller. Many food brands reduce portion sizes in an effort to keep prices down. This is an affordability crisis. So yes, they're sneaking it in a lot of ways where the price may be the same or a little bit less for something that you was buying, but you'd have to look at the weight of it and realize that you're getting less than you were before. They've changed the packaging on a lot of things, like cereal. They've changed the way they do the packaging to make it look like it's the same amount or more when it's actually less. So if you look at the numbers, then you will see. Now let's read this. It says, grocery prices are getting out of hand. Save this from Kobe Settler for later and share with a friend. If you want to earn it says, I don't know about you, but Absolutely hate going to the store nowadays. My mind still hasn't gotten used to the new normal. Prices of everyday household items. Yes, inflation has always been a factor and prices have continued to rise for generations now, but these price increases over this last 5 years have been far above average, and we as consumers are feeling the effects. The Fed has continued to take the steps necessary to bring down inflation over the long term, but the price increases are now likely the new normal and here to stay. So yeah, after COVID, and they were like, we having supply chain issues and so forth and so on. So, and that's the reason why we have to raise these prices, da 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 da. But after the pandemic passed, the prices stayed up. They never recovered. And so what the hell? You ask them, well, are you guys still having supply chain issues? Like, what is driving your need to raise the prices on these goods and these items or whatever? And, you can't really get an answer. And it doesn't really matter what answer they give you, because when you go and you look at their profit margins since the pandemic, they're through the roof, ridiculous, over the top. They have used the pandemic as an excuse for them to make more profits. As simple as that. And there was a report that came out that showed that, the inflation is real, but it's like 45% of it is price gouging. So that's like a big chunk of it. Like half of it is simply price fixing, price gouging, because these corporations have monopolies in each one of these sectors. And it's only 2 or 3 freaking companies that are, in each sector, and they get to determine what prices they want to have on these products, and at the end of the day, this is how they sell you and get you caught in it so that you can screw over your neighbor, is because they're going to say that, your investment returns on your portfolios are going to be better. So that's what they talk about. It's all about the investors. We're taking care of the investors. That's the most important thing or whatever, So that's the reason why the stock buybacks is such the thing to do nowadays, because it increases the value of the stocks, and it increases the money coming back for those, people who own the shares. And they're like, you could get involved in this. You could just go buy, stocks in this company or whatever, and you can make the money. But the math is not adding up. You have United States citizens across the nation suffering, paying more for their groceries. So let's say you do own stocks. You're just a regular folks, not like a freaking investment firm or whatever. You're just a regular person, and you're not rich, so you can't buy like a majority stocks in a company or whatever the hell. You're just a regular Joe Blow, and you go and you buy stocks of this company. The amount of money that you're making back from that as a result of this inflation, if you will, is not going to balance what you're spending as a result of this inflation. So it's a mind game that they're playing with you to make you think that you're winning. But if you actually did the math, you are not, unless you are at the upper end of this situation, And most of us are not. That's the small percentage. The regular Joe Blow is not winning out of this. Okay, so I don't understand why people tend to want to align themselves with these few folks that are winning and pretend that you are in that group when you are not. You are the one that's getting exploited because you're paying more for your groceries, and it's taking a bigger portion of your budget every month. You're not winning, you're losing. I don't know. Simple maths. They got us brainwashed, programmed. Let's read a couple comments on this. It says, Now, due to the record profits these food companies are making, you're painting a full picture here. Food prices aren't decided by the president, rather corporations. Let me say it again. While you and I are paying more for groceries, the corporations that set prices are making record profits. And, you know, I like the part where he just said, you know, the food prices aren't decided by the president. And, you know, what I like to say all the time is that these corporations have way more power. Like, who has the most power in your life? You know, is it the president of the United States, or is it the company that you work for, your job? Who has the most impact over your life? Is it who is the president, or is it the policies and procedures that your job has? You know, that, you know, we're getting lost in this and not realizing who, you know, we should have problem with, you know, who is really behind all of this, you know, who is manipulating the government anyways, you know. We got to take the wool off our eyes and try to see things for what they really are. The president doesn't have anything to do with the prices. You know, that's what a lot of times what they do is they say stuff like, you know, jobs have increased over such and such based on the policies of the president or whatever, da 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 da. And they give them more credit than they deserve, because it's like if they just so happen to be in office when certain things happen, like inflation goes down or jobs increase or whatever, and then you give the president credit for this stuff. And a lot of times it had zero to do or very little to do with the policies that the president had, you know. I don't know. Let's read some more. It says, stop blaming presidents for the greed of corporations. Boom. Another one, it says 100% corporate greed, record-setting profits all over, rich getting richer, don't kill yourself. Maybe eggs have an excuse because of bird flu, but not many others do. And that situation passed. And, you know, they got sued. They got sued. Remember when the internet was going crazy with the people were like, oh, I'm balling, I'm rich because I'm buying a bunch of eggs or whatever because of the price of eggs was so crazy. They got sued after that for price gouging people. Like the bird flu thing happened, but that didn't translate or explain the prices as time went on. And we just played a list right now where the egg prices are still up. Like the bird flu doesn't, the egg freaking chickens grow very fast. My grandma used to make me go out to the chicken coop and fight the damn rooster every damn morning to get the damn eggs for her to make breakfast early in the morning. I don't know why. Out of all my cousins, I was the one she woke up to do that. I had to fight the damn rooster every damn morning, man. I'm like, we're doing this again. We did this yesterday, bro. Why we got to go through this every day, bro? I'm finna go ahead and do this thing, and then I'm gonna be out of here, bro. Just let me make it, you know. But anyways, chickens lay eggs fast and a lot, bro. Like, and they grow fast. Like the pod chicken. I don't have to be in the corporation or on the farms to know that the chicken population will recover really quickly. So there's no reason, as time 6 months passes after a bird flu or whatever, I can pretty much guarantee you the chicken population has recovered. Okay? They grow really, really quickly. Another comment that says, is there anything we can do about it? Oh, that's always the question. Is there anything we could do about it? Well, first you want to make yourself aware. You don't want to follow the narrative and just eat what they feed you. Don't just drink the Kool-Aid, first off. You know, you want to realize what's going on. Like these conglomerates, these multinational conglomerates who don't give a damn about United States citizens. They have freaking stuff going on around the world. They don't care about one nation to another, even if their home base is here in the United States. Okay, so you got to realize that. And, you know, so there needs to be an effort to bust up these conglomerates, these monopolies, because as long as we continue to have 2 or 3 major players in each sector, then we're going to continue to have this kind of situation. Like they want to say that there's competition, but it's not really, because a lot of these brands, they are owned by the same company and each other. You know, we have to start going in a different direction as far as having a healthy economy by having real competition, and that'll drive prices down. As long as they don't have any real competition and they can sit in a back room and chop it up and decide on what the prices are, we're going to continue to have this situation. So being aware and understanding what's happening is the first step. You know, letting them pull the wool over your eyes and saying it's something like the bird flu, and that's the reason why the prices are crazy, then things are going to continue the way that they are. Which I wanted to talk about. I almost made the name of the show media literacy. I'll probably do that in the future, but they know that people's media literacy is low. Like, what I mean is, when it's a fake news story, when it's a badly worded headline, when it's a slanted article, with slanted charts and bad statistics, most people can't, see through that, especially if it's coming from a source that they respect, like a major news source. They're going to go with it and they feel like it's true or whatever. And, media literacy is a real issue. I think that people, I don't know how we do it, but people need to become more media literate. They need to be able to, and that's what I try to do here on this show. That's why I read articles and play videos and I read the comments and we analyze the stuff, is because, that just the headlines alone, like, a lot of people don't read articles. They just read the headlines. And the way the headlines are written, it's usually in a way to lead you to a conclusion that you're going to make on your own. And you're going to just be like, oh, well, that makes sense or whatever. And then you think that you know what it was without even reading the article. But then for us that do go a little bit further than reading the headline and go into the article, then they have these slanted views and they'll have these, I was watching this about how, like, companies hire their own people to do research on, like, the safety of the food products or whatever, and they'll do these campaigns to discredit other, like, third-party folks that go in and look at, like, how healthy it is or whatever. And so then they'll heavily, put money in these researchers' hands to get results that they want or whatever, so it looks legitimate because it's coming from a scientist or whatever, and they're doing the research on this thing. But you don't know that it was, like, overwhelmingly funded by the same company who would hurt from results that would be negative. So they're not going to accept any negative results. If they're the ones paying, they're paying your check, they're paying your bill or whatever, you're going to give them the results that they're looking for or whatever. You're going to discard, you're going to find a reason to make an excuse for the results that you're getting from your research. Are you going to ask the wrong questions or whatever? Basically, what I'm saying is, without media literacy, you don't understand that these people are straight up lying to you, or they're very biased or slanted or whatever. And that's what leads to the situation that we have. One more comment says, it's greed. Corporations piggybacking on the inflation narrative and screwing us all. Yeah. Freaking the COVID thing, it was the greatest wealth transfer in human history. And it continues. It was like, wow. And see, they wouldn't have been able to get away with it if it wasn't for the pandemic. We accepted it. We were like, well, thing is hard times, so we accepted it. And then they were like, okay, well, they accepted it. Let's do some more on this and see if we can get away with it. And that's what they did. And they're continuing to do it. We're so distracted with all of the stuff that's going on, that we don't have time to wake up or look up and be like, wait a minute, We was getting screwed before. Now we're getting ran through. Now they're running a train on us. A couple more comments. I'm gonna move on. It says these are lies. Inflation is down. Corporate greed is up. Another one says yet these companies run by Republican CEOs are making record profits. They don't have to be Republican CEOs, so don't do that. These corporations, they're anti-political, if you will. Like they don't care. Whatever side helps them the most is who they're going with. Like it's us that's on that partisan, you know, one side is the devil and the other side is the saint or whatever. These corporations are like, however we can win, you know, whatever we can do to win. Like if we got to go with the Dems this year and go with the R's next year, that's what we're going to do. Another company, one more comment. It says, this is corporate greed is what it actually is. Most of these companies are making huge profits, but it's easier to scapegoat government caused inflation instead of what is actually is greedflation. Yeah, so they want to blame Biden for all of this. You know, I mean, you can blame Biden for some things, but you can't blame Biden for the price of your cereal. Don't be fooled. You don't have no power over that. Check this out. It says there are three kinds of people: those who see when they are shown, and those who cannot see at all. It says the same is true of reason. Those who reject it can't be reached. You know, in my liberation theology class, the teacher was talking about the verse Luke 18, I want to say, where it's like bring sight to the blind. And it's like there's a rap group that I liked a lot. They were called the Gravediggers, and their whole thing was like bringing life to the mentally dead or whatever. And I think that, you know, that is something like I didn't understand it before in the past, but as time has gone on, I understand it more and more, how you can have people who literally are mentally dead, if you will. Like they don't understand what's going on in the world like at all, you know. And this is beyond the point of what I was saying about media literacy. It's just, you know, it's like the zombie apocalypse has already happened, you know, and a lot of people, maybe the majority of people, are just going through life. They're just going through the motions. Like they are easily manipulated. They're controlled. They are, you know, like a robot. It's a zombie robot. And if there was a controller that was hanging out of their back, then whoever walked up behind them could just animate them in any way that they feel fit. With unbeknownst to the person. And maybe even that person would think that what they're doing is upon their free will. And they're completely unaware that they're being like puppeted. You know, and the only way to get out of that is to be able to see, you know, and, you know, freedom ain't free. You have to put effort into it, you know, and I think that a lot of us are just not willing to do that. They would much rather like take the easy route and, you know, let someone rule them, if you will, so they don't have to worry about it for themselves. It's like a person that just got out of prison and they're like, shit, I'd rather be in prison and, you know, I already got food to eat. I know where I'm going to sleep. You know, they tell me what time to go to sleep, what time to get up. I don't have to worry about none of that stuff. You know, when you're out here in the free world, then, you know, you get up. It's on you to get up. It's on you to find something to eat. It's on you to make sure you got shelter, you know, And for some of us, that just might just be too much work. You know? I need a break. I'm not talking too much. And this kind of goes with the topic. It says the only way to deal with an unfree world is to become so absolutely free that your very existence is an act of rebellion. And I like to say your existence is the resistance. You know, you have integrity, you have character, you know, you think, then you are automatically pushing against the paradigm, you know, because they want us all to be stuck scrolling, watching 15-second reels and moving on to the next, and just, you know, stimulated to the point where you just, what is the one they said they would have a hell of pleasures? Was that from 1984? Or was that from, what was that from? Where society would get to the point where they would have access to all the pleasures that they could possibly want. And then they would indulge in those pleasures. And that would be the way to leave them to be submit to like a totalitarian police state. And then they won't really care, because as long as they have all of these pleasures. I don't know. I'm all over the place. I'm missing comments. Hey, Smith, what up? What up, man? Thank you for being here, bro. He says money is a hell of a drug. Sure is, man. What's this one? Whatever is happening anywhere, that reporter is beautiful as F. How long ago was that? Ooh, well over 30 minutes. I hope you're still here. I'm sorry I didn't see your comment. I think that was the India channel, and I agree. Those people are so beautiful, man. I ain't gonna lie, I'll be watching the news just because of that. Like, yeah, those are so beautiful people. I need to play something to give myself a break, y'all. Give my voice a break, unless somebody want to jump in here and chop it up. I need a voice break. My voice is starting to crack. Let me see, what do I have? Hold on, y'all. I know I have some stuff. Let's go to Twitter. Some heavy stuff on Twitter. I wanted to do some lighter stuff, but let's look on this. It says the Yemenis has shot down another U.S. Air Force MQ-9, bringing the total number of MQ-9 shot down to 3. Each of these UAVs cost more than $30 million. This is another story that the media is not really covering. They don't want you to know that some little band of rebels can cause so much havoc, you know, shut down the waterways with these container ships, you know, shoot down $30 million drones. You know, war is different now. You know, it's not an army versus an army. So you can't, it's harder to fight. It's like a guerrilla warfare. They're faster. They can hide. Two minutes. Let's play this.
Well, I'm Jewish and I'm here and I feel very safe. I actually feel very at home in this crowd of people who just want peace.
As a Jewish person in London at weekends, I don't believe these statements that it's unsafe.
Absolute rubbish. I've been here every Shabbat with my kippah on,
I've had nothing but love, nothing but welcome from everyone I've spoken to. The idea that London is a no-go zone for Jews is just for the birds. It's rubbish.
These Jews have come out specially. There were 500 of us meeting outside Belgrave Square. We've all come here on purpose to show that that's rubbish.
Politicians are pushing it as just basically propaganda and to push their own narrative, to pretend that there isn't another voice that opposes the genocide going on in Gaza, to try and weaponize anti-Semitism to a degree.
We've been sold a false narrative, and I think it's really important for Jews everywhere to stand up and say, I'm not okay with this, and this is not being done for me.
Jewish people are not a monolith that all think the same. There's thousands of Jewish people who feel very comfortable in London and oppose the events in Gaza right now.
I've got a poster showing that I'm Jewish, that I'm supporting peace in Palestine, and I feel so welcome. People are really grateful that me and the rest of the Jewish bloc are out today. I've not experienced any anti-Semitism or anything that's made me feel uncomfortable.
There's always this talk about people feeling uncomfortable when people draw attention to what's happening in Gaza, but we're feeling uncomfortable about what's happening in Gaza.
There's genocide in Gaza.
Indiscriminate killing of men, women, children in Gaza.
As a Jewish person, as a human being, I know that using starvation as a weapon of war is immoral, it's illegal.
Having gone through what we've gone through as Jews in history, we should understand what it's like to be persecuted.
We come from a people who have been targeted and persecuted and genocided in the past, and it's quite painful, I think, to feel like this is being undertaken in my name.
Judaism and Zionism are not the same thing.
Ethnic cleansing is fundamental to the Zionist project.
It certainly does not reflect my Jewish values, which are life for all people.
Even our own foreign secretary is talking about how frustrated he is with the Israeli government starving the Palestinian population. It has to end now.
Stop the genocide! Stop the genocide! Stop the genocide!
So it's like the media wants to speak for these Jewish folks and make it seem like there's a general consensus of Jewish folks that feel a certain way, you know, they're being attacked or whatever as a result of the Palestine deal. And it's almost every news story is saying the same thing. And that's that's always a key. When you have the media all saying the same thing, you know, that should be a trigger that something is going on, you know, that they're not being honest.
I'm proud to be here in solidarity with the people of Palestine. It's great to see thousands of people again to be on the streets to call an end to the slaughter of the Palestinian people. We stand with you and we call out the international community and in terms of what their role is. So I'm here in solidarity with the Palestinian people. What we're all witnessing in horror is the devastation in Gaza, the devastation of the people of Gaza, and it's genocide and it needs to stop, and the international community need to make it stop. They must stop arming Israel and they must stop it now.
So that first clip was the UK, and this clip was from Ireland. No, but this is not what you're seeing on the media. Burkina Faso has suspended BBC and Voice of America in the country. Burkina Faso has decided to give BBC and Voice of America a little time off. They're suspended the broadcasting rights of these two international radio networks for 2 weeks, as reported by various sources. The decision came after the radio station aired a report by Human Rights Watch, which accused the country armed forces of mass killing of civilians. Your comment on this? Well, my comment is that's what they were saying about the first thing come to mind is Saddam Hussein, Iraq. That's the same thing they said about Gaddafi, you know. And what happened to Saddam Hussein? What happened to Gaddafi? You know, this is what they do. They create a narrative as an excuse to go in. And see, they really don't like the developments that has happened in Burkina Faso. You know, the people now, they need to have elections there. I ain't gonna even lie, you know, on the other side. They do need to have elections. Because there was a coup there. So, you know, but what the military leaders are doing over there is stuff that's good for the people, you know, but at the same time, they do need to have elections to make it legitimate, because the longer they stay in like military control, the more that the outside, forces can say, that y'all don't really represent the people or whatever. So anyways, like I said, that narrative is to create a situation to give them an excuse to go in there and get them up out of there, which is, that's what they want to do, because they kicked France out. They start controlling their own resources and stuff. They're not having that. Burkina Faso, I want to say they found oil recently. Don't quote me on that. I'm not 100% on that. But I know that they have other valuable resources there. And gold, I'm pretty sure gold is one of them. And there's other rare minerals. And they're not letting, they're building their own refineries and stuff like that. They're not letting the private capital come in, the external people come in and exploit those resources without, allowing the people to benefit from it. So that's the problem that they have. Comment, it says Burkina Faso Superior Council of Communication announced the suspension late in April 25th, 2024. The CSC has also directed internet service providers to suspend access to the website and digital platforms of the BBC, VOA, and Human Rights Watch. And overall, I tend to feel the BBC a lot of times makes pretty okay content. Human Rights Watch makes pretty okay content, but you always have the what do they call it? Controlled opposition, where even the ones that do good content overall, they have they're beholding to the powers that be, and in certain stories they will be biased to one side to benefit certain things. BBC is, these people are the ones that colonize like all of these folks, and they that's why they're so rich anyways, that exploiting the colonies' resources, and if you think that there aren't any more colonies anymore, then you're completely mistaken. They just don't call them colonies anymore, but they are. It says this move by Burkina Faso is not the first of its kind, as the country has previously targeted several other international media outlets. The BBC and the VOA will have to sit this one out for a couple of weeks in Burkina Faso. Who knows, maybe they'll use this time to brush up on knowing how to speak the local language and learn to play the kora. Comments, it says Africa needs no BBC. This is intended to destabilize the status quo. It says nobody needs Western propaganda in Africa. It says the government should delete them ASAP. We don't need them. Another one, they need to get rid of all European voices, as it only serves themselves, not the people or government. And one of the things, I brought this up in one of my classes where it was talking about how like other folks coming in and creating a narrative for a different group, like these people should be able to have a voice themselves, and produce content, media, have journalists that are recognized on the world stage so that you can hear from them. And it's like we talk about Haiti a lot, and it's whenever you hear about Haiti, it's almost always someone outside of Haiti telling you what's going on in Haiti. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, nobody can go over there and talk to the actual people of Haiti. How come we can't hear the actual voices from the people that are in Haiti about what's going on in Haiti? Why do we always have to hear about it from somebody that's on the other side of the world? They can't talk over there. They don't know how to write. They don't know how to produce content. They don't have journalists. Couple more comments. It says they need to get rid of all European voices, as it only serves themselves, not the people or government. It It says, when you talk of Human Rights Watch, I think of, Ilaralego, the chief liar in southern Cameroon's conflict with Cameroon. This girl turned everything upside down. What human rights are they watching? They're investigators of human rights abuses. Ambazonians will never forgive. I think I know what they're talking about here, but I'm not 100%, so I'm not gonna comment. Make sure I don't freaking go to something I don't need to go to. There was a post, Elon Musk made a comment. Let me see if I can find that. Is it in here? Okay, here it is. Let's do this. This is kind of heavy right here. I'm going to play a little bit of this clip, and then I'm going to read Elon Musk's
Hello, Hungary. Hello, Budapest. Hello, fellow Europeans and American friends. Thank you so much for having me. Allow me to skip formalities for a moment and dive right into a subject that is not so cheerful, but very, very necessary to discuss. Let me walk you through the past 7 days in Europe. This week in Stockholm, 3 elderly women in their 70s were stabbed in broad daylight on the streets. In London, 4 people were stabbed in a time span of just 42 hours. In Paris, hundreds of African migrants took to the street to riot. And in Brigalow, also in France, yet another church was burned down to the ground. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is just a few incidents in just a couple of days on our beautiful continent. But we all know that these incidents aren't incidents anymore. If there's one thing that's for sure, is that we know, and our governments also know, that there is a link between mass migration and crime. In the Dutch city of Dordrecht, something interesting happened the other day. They announced, and this is a small city in the Netherlands, in my home country, that a new asylum center will be put in that little town. And what did the municipality do? They said, we are going to offer citizens who live in the vicinity of this center 1,000 euros to take extra safety measures. Our new reality in Europe consists of frequent rapes, stabbings, killings, murders, shootings, even beheadings. But let me be clear about one thing. This did not used to happen before. This is a newly imported problem. Samuel P. Huntington predicted this over 25 years ago when he wrote, and I quote, "In the new world of mass migration, the most pervasive, important, and dangerous conflicts will not be between the social classes. They will not be between the rich and the poor. They will be between peoples belonging to different cultural entities. Tribal wars and ethnic conflicts will occur within civilizations." Well, boy, was he right. And the worst part is, we as a society seem to have become indifferent to it. When another white boy or a white girl dies at the hand of an immigrant, we might shake our head, we might let out a sigh, we might even get angry for a minute or two, and then we go on with our lives. We offer the family thoughts and prayers, but nothing ever changes. Ladies and gentlemen, what does that say about us? This is a response of a society that has already given up, a society that has already accepted its defeat. But is this true? Have we given up? Do we really accept the new reality that our globalist leaders have in mind for us? I know one thing for sure, and that is that if nothing changes, if we don't start to seriously fight for our continent, for our religion, for our people, our countries, then this time that we live in will go down in history as the time in which Western nations no longer had to get invaded by hostile armies in order to be conquered. This time will then go down in history as the period in which the invader was actively invited in by a corrupt elite. And not only did this corrupt elite invite the enemy in, they made the native population pay for it too. Everyone who has eyes can see it. The native, white, Christian European population is being replaced at an ever-accelerating rate. Let me back this up for you with some statistics from my home country. Let's take Amsterdam, the capital. Amsterdam currently consists of 56% migrants. The Hague, 58% migrants. Rotterdam, almost 60% migrants. And of course, most of these immigrants come from non-Christian, non-Western, African and Middle Eastern countries. Conclusion, the Dutch population is already outnumbered in the majority of our cities. But let's look onwards. London, 54% migrants. Again, conclusion, native population outnumbered. Brussels, color me shocked, 70% migrants. Conclusion, native population majorly outnumbered. And other Europeans will, of course, follow suit soon if they haven't already. So I'm going to draw the forbidden conclusion here. The Great Replacement theory is no longer a theory, it's reality. And what's interesting about replacement is that the establishment will either deny its existence, or when they admit to it, they say that it's a good thing that the native European population is soon no longer a majority on its own continent. Dutch national disgrace and dubbed climate pope Frans Timmermans already stated in 2015 that diversity is humanity's destiny and that Europe will be diverse. And of course, by now, I think we all know what they mean with the word diversity. It means less white people, less of you. Imagine this in an Asian or an African country. Imagine their leaders rejoicing in the fact that their people will soon no longer be a majority in their own country. Absolutely unthinkable, unimaginable.
That's enough. I can't hear no more. Yeah, so like the last little point that she made, I immediately think about South Africa and, you know, the Afrikaans, okay? She said it's unthinkable. It happened. It happened, okay? I saw the clips of the sports team from South Africa, and it was like all white people. So, you know, the argument with the immigration, you know, and you know, we've had this argument on the show many times. And I'm like, you know, it's about race. And people are saying, no, it's not about race. And it's like, listening to this lady's argument right here, how many times did she say that the white people, she said it was a white person got killed or whatever, you know, you know, the white people are being replaced or whatever. Like, this is what is under the tone whenever they say, you know, immigration, whenever they're talking about immigration, they're saying, you know, it's, you know, white people are becoming, you know, encroached upon, if you will, you know, by people that aren't white or whatever. So it is about race. Like, that is what it's about, like, period. And Elon Musk, he reposted this, and this is what he said. He said, The problem with Great Replacement theory is that it fails to address the foundational issues of low birth rates. Record low birth rates are leading to population collapse in Europe and even faster population collapse in most of Asia. Immigration is low in Asia, so there is no replacement going on. The countries are simply shrinking away. If this doesn't turn around, then any countries on Earth with low birth rates will become empty of people and fall into ruin, like the remains we see of the many long dead civilizations. Like, I think that he's being really careful about how he's saying this or whatever. But he's right, you know, and the people that know, you know. What am I trying to say? It's so much here. Low birth rates is an issue. Okay. When she was saying those numbers about the immigration, talking about 75% immigrants or whatever, I don't know where these numbers come from, and I can't be confident that those are true. You know, I have a problem with those numbers. They always say that. It's like that's what they say about Texas or whatever. Now, there is truth related to certain demographic changes or whatever, but they like to embellish those numbers to make people react in a certain way about these things. So, but again, the main point that I gain from this is that when, you know, the elections are coming here in the United States. This is election year. We'll have we could possibly have a new president by the end of the year, at the beginning of the next year. And one of the main issues is immigration. And, you know, it's the border, it's immigration, they're bringing drugs, they're thugs, they're, you know, sexual assault, people who do sexual assaults. I'm trying to find the right words to say this without getting, you know, demonetized or whatever, the screen, the live getting shut down. But they say all of those other things, but they don't say that it's about race. Okay? But that's what it really is. And this lady here is, you know, saying the quiet part out loud. And this, you know, in Europe, you had the Brexit that happened. And they said that Brexit had nothing to do with race. But it did. That was the main driver of Brexit. And this type of politics is, you know, it's the same here in the States. That's the reason why I like to look at the UK a lot, is because their politics is very, very similar to the politics here in the States. You know, I like the way they talk. They talk different. They use words like rubbish. I like that. I think it's entertaining to me to hear the way, because, you know, the way they use the language, I like the way they use the language. I ain't gonna lie, like that's entertaining to me. But it's a very similar politics. So if you want to get a better understanding of our politics, you can compare it to theirs, and what happens here impacts what happens over there, and what happens over there impacts and reflects over here. What happens is they see what works and then they use that, if that makes any sense. This is a sensitive topic. I'm trying to be careful, and it's tough to talk about it. Not easy. let's see what it says. Most of the interventions to increase birth rates suggested here have been tried without much impact. What is this? It says the book I've read on this subject is Empty Planet. Empty Planet. So empty of white people, because I mean, like, not everybody is having lower birth rates. And you know, we just the other big issue, one of the other big issues for this election is abortion rights. You know, and you've got many states who have like abortion bans with no exemptions, you know, and you wonder why we've gotten to this point where, you know, they don't want no abortions. Like, even if the mom can die from freaking, you know, the pregnancy, no excuses. They're prosecuting the doctors and the hospital. They can go to jail. All of this. So this is what's driving that. Another one that says, I mean, those low birth rate Western countries with immigration will simply become African countries, and that's the issue. Why, if Africa already exists, we do not need to create a second Africa and an erasure of Europe. We don't. Okay, so what about all the way we did colonization in these different countries or whatever, you know? Why do we have these countries who are predominantly white outside of Europe? You know, how did that happen in the first place? You know, did it have anything to do with settler colonialism? Did it have anything to do with like apartheid types of systems? Did it have anything to do with like immigration that benefited certain groups and disenfranchised others? You know, how did we get here in the first place with the makeup of these different countries around the world? You know, it's like trying to explain something without having any knowledge of history. You know, the United States is not Europe. Okay, Europe is still Europe, right? It says no one is having kids because it's too expensive. Cut taxes for anyone with kids and you'll see birth rates skyrocketing. That's pretty interesting. That's an interesting comment right there. You know, they have this pro-life stance, but it's about while the child is in the womb. And after the child comes out of the womb, it's like you're on your own, you know, you made your decisions or whatever, you know, keep it in your pants or whatever. So you have really expensive daycare, you know, formula, I mean, you name it. It really is expensive to have a child in the United States. I can't really speak for everywhere else, but here it is really expensive to have children. And the social nets that were in place are being, you know, taken away bit by bit, bit by bit. They have a problem with giving kids lunch at school. You know, they got a problem with Medicaid. You know, they have a problem with all of these different programs that would help families, you know, make it to the end of the month. And then on the other hand, they want you to have children, you know. I mean, it's a sensitive subject when it comes to abortion. I don't really like abortion, but there's a reason why it should be legal, you know, mainly related to the health of the mom. But if you're a conservative, then why are you concerned with what someone else is doing? You know, that's my argument over and over again. if you're a conservative, why do you care what others are doing? You know, why do you want to dictate what they should be doing? How does it affect you? You know, most of the time you're like, it's not my problem, but people getting abortions, it is your problem. I mean, the argument of right and wrong and morality is not what we're talking about here. Another comment, it says, yes, we have failing birth rates across the West, but that doesn't mean the solution is importing the rest of the world to solve the population decline. What's a civilization without civilized people? See, civilized people that's racial right there. It's basically saying that the Europeans, the white folks, are the ones that are civilized, and the ones that are not white are not. The solution is to import the rest of the world. I don't think that any country is importing people. And like the way people move around the world has been the same throughout history. People migrate back and forth. That is how things work. You know, I think that, you know, they feel like they're losing control over, you know, one of the things I feel like, you know, they feel like they respect democracy, or democracy is a real thing as long as they have the numbers to be the majority. But if they don't have the numbers to be the majority, then they no longer have respect for democracy. You know, again, South Africa is another example of that situation. You know, they moved the black people around. They disenfranchised them, made it so it was difficult for them to vote or whatever. They weren't the majority. If it was democracy, then the black people that were there would have been able to have a say in those situations in South Africa, but that wasn't the case. It says, importing millions of unskilled welfare fake refugees is not the answer. The answer is more family-friendly policies like Hungary and Orban are doing things. Importing millions of unskilled welfare fake refugees. Unskilled welfare fake refugees. Another comment says, it's both. In America, we're literally being replaced by illegal aliens. An illegal alien murdered Laken Riley. One of our daughters was stolen from us, while an illegal alien lives in her place. At the same time, abortion is prioritized over family planning, and families that would love to have more children can't afford them. Seriously, register to vote at your current address and vote for Trump this November. Don't let any more of our girls become another Laken Riley. We failed her. So Trump is the answer, apparently. Trump's going to solve all the problems in the world. Like, everything is going to be great once Trump becomes president. Like, where's the logic? Let me see. What do I want to do? I don't know how much longer I'm going to stay on. I'm starting to get tired. This is that story that they said that they're not covering about the mass grave. I didn't get to watch this earlier, so I don't know what they're going to play in this. I'm kind of scared.
Also found we also found the bodies of a number of children, and here we have questions. We would like to know what is the reason why we have children in mass graves. This shows and proves that the occupation is still leading a war of genocide where over 14,000 children were killed. So roughly 40% of the total number of martyrs in the Gaza Strip are children. We also noted that some of the bodies, their hands were tied using belts, using fabric, and this also shows that some of the civilians were subjected to torture by Israeli occupation soldiers. We also found that
So yeah, Anthony Blinken made a comment about it, and he was like, yeah, we're gonna ask the IDF about what happened, you know. It's like, hey, are you going to do an investigation on this? Well, we're going to ask them about what happened. They can let us know what happened. It's like, well, are you going to do an independent investigation? Yeah, our investigation consists of asking Israel what happened. You know, that's what we're going to do.
The Gaza Civil Service today held a press conference this morning, which was televised, and they said that evidence showed that many of those pulled out from the 3 mass graves that they found, including children, were tortured before being killed. Some even showed signs of being buried alive, along with other crimes against humanity that they accuse Israeli forces of. They called for an independent forensic investigation. This administration repeatedly says that it asks Israel, the Israeli government, to investigate itself. As a mediator for peace between Israelis and Palestinians, how does it ever make sense that the United States asks the accused party to examine itself and provide reports that you have previously said that you actually trust? What's wrong with an independent scientific forensic investigation? I mean, if the results of such an independent investigation prove the accusations to be baseless, then that would be in Israel's favor, wouldn't it?
So, as it relates to the continued reporting about we're seeing about these mass graves, first National Security Advisor Sullivan spoke a little bit about this yesterday, but we continue to find these reports incredibly troubling. And that's why yesterday you saw the National Security Advisor call for this to be thoroughly investigated. We want to see these facts looked into, and simultaneously we're continuing to press the government of Israel for more information. The IDF has spoken to this in some sense already, but we are continuing to press them for additional information.
But why not have an independent forensic scientist, which the Palestinians are calling for?
We think this does need to be thoroughly investigated, but in terms of the modality, we continue to want to see some additional information from the government of Israel before.
But you're asking the accused to investigate itself.
We believe that through a thorough investigation, we can get some additional answers. We're also hoping to continue to get more information from the government of Israel on this.
But
go ahead.
Part of this
Yeah, so that conversation was continually going in a circle, and this guy was just making the same comment over and over again. He's like, hey, you know, wouldn't it benefit Israel if there was an independent investigation and they found that it was, you know, not true or whatever? Well, you know, we're asking Israel to let us know what the hell is going on. Well, why would you ask the person who's being accused to investigate themselves on a situation? Wouldn't it benefit them to have an outside person do an investigation, especially if it wasn't true or whatever? Well, you know, we're going to ask them to do an investigation. We're going to continue to press them and have them, you know, let us know what happened. That's the circular freaking logic of our media. You gotta love it. One side owns, I'm not gonna say that.
Show you a bunch of pictures, and I want to see if you can detect the theme. Here's the first picture. These are college students protesting segregation, and this is the violent police response to those college students. Here are college students protesting the Vietnam War, and here is law enforcement violently responding to those college students. Here are college students protesting the Iraq War, and here is the violent police response to those college students. Here are college students protesting the genocide in Gaza, and as you guessed it, here is a violent response from law enforcement. In all 4 cases, the college students were peaceful, committed to justice, and demanding basic human rights and basic dignity. And in each case, the government deputized law enforcement to violently suppress the right to free speech and the right to peaceful protest. And the current protests against the siege in Gaza, police responses include stationing snipers on rooftops. This here is the University of Indiana. The lesson to be learned from this is don't bet against young people. In every single one of those scenarios prior to this current one in Gaza, whether it was segregation, whether it was the Vietnam War, whether it was Iraq, students were on the right side of history and the violent police response was on the wrong side of history. This is no different. My deepest respect and gratitude to young people of all faiths and backgrounds, Jewish, Muslim, Christian, people of no faiths, for staying committed to these principles of justice and humanity. Continue with your peaceful protests and stay committed to humanity, because if history has told us anything, you are on the right side.
Yeah, so like, you know, all the people that's making the comments about these hippies on the college campuses that they need to go to class, they don't have enough homework, you know. Those people are probably the same people who was saying the same thing during the Vietnam War, you know. Yeah, those hippies don't have nothing better to do. Get a job, you hippie. Stop smoking pot. You know, you know, they ask you, what would you have done if you were, you know, if the Holocaust was happening, the Jewish Holocaust, and you were around at that time, you know, and what would you do? You know, would you, you know, which side would you be on or whatever? Who would you defend or whatever, you know? And you ask yourself what you would do now, or what are you doing now, or which side you would support now with the situations that are going on. And whichever side you choose now is the same side that you would choose then, okay? And the situation will be completely flipped. So you're going to be on the wrong side. I'm trying to be careful how I say that. Joanne Reed posted this. She said, what he said, if you're on the side of the police, not the college students, you're probably on the wrong side of history. It says, common justice, and I'll DM you. It says, now let's dive into this video. Do you notice the frame from history here? Don't be against young people, and please, for the love of God, stop deputing police to violent. I don't know what she was trying to say. To violence, suppress free speech and peaceful protest. Let's continue our peaceful fight for justice. Comments. It says, college students have long been our moral conscience and demanding justice. We should listen to them again today. Y'all, please do subscribe. So like, what was I gonna say? Education. And earlier, what was I talking about? Questions instead of answers. So it's like a lot of people, you know, instead of asking the right questions, they feel like they already know what's going on. So, and that's what's leading to these situations where they jump to conclusions. You know, the media doesn't help because it's giving you a biased narrative. And, you know, you think you know by reading the headlines or whatever and not taking a second to do any kind of due diligence to dig into the situation. And even if you do, a lot of times you're going down your echo chamber that's already going to be giving you, you know, views that you already believe in, or that, you know, on the side that you are already on, because your algorithm feeds you information that you know, agree with. You know, education, you know, like I say, a lot of these people are ignorant to things, you know. These kids are going to college to learn stuff. You know, you're like, oh, they're getting brainwashed or whatever. It's the liberal institutions, A lot of these people who are saying these things have never even been on a college campus, haven't even been in a classroom setting outside of freaking K through 12. So you don't know what the hell is going on these college campuses. You don't know. If you haven't been on a college campus in a class, you do not know. So how can you sit there and say these things with confidence? Like I say, these kids are trying to learn stuff. You know, they read books. Like, they know things, bruh. just because they're kids doesn't mean they're ignorant, bro. Like a lot of adults much older than them know a lot less. Every time, like I'm in a classroom and these kids start talking and I'm like, oh my God, like they know stuff. Like I'm older than these kids I'm in the classroom with, but these kids are saying stuff and I'm listening to them and I'm like, God. And I'll be thinking that all these kids are ignorant too. I ain't gonna lie, I'm older than them. And I'd be thinking that they're all just ignorant. But then when they start talking, I'd be like, God, like, I didn't know that. And then they say something else. I didn't know that. They say something else. I didn't know that. Like, these kids know stuff, bro. Like, they do.
For humans like this man, Jonathan Greenblatt of the Anti-Defamation League, I'm going to play the video. Listen closely as he explains to you that many of the groups organizing protests on college campuses are proxies of the Iranian government. They're terrorists, ladies and gentlemen. They're proxies directly connected. They're an extension of Iran. That's what's happening. These aren't kids from local community across the United States who sacrificed, did their extracurriculars, killed their SATs, had their parents pay mad money for tutors and advisors and all that to get into the Ivy League. No, these are straight up terrorists. And Jonathan Greenblatt is here to set the record straight. I'm going to let you listen to the video. I love the part where he says, teach these kids a lesson. Don't let them act with impunity. How entitled are they, thinking they can do whatever they want with no consequences or anybody to put them in their place?
Time that the presidents and these campus administrators across the country started again simply saying, you got to play by the rules. I mean, talk about the height of entitlement, right? Thinking that you can just act with impunity wherever you want. You know, it's funny. We're talking about Iran a few minutes ago. Iran has their military proxies like Hezbollah, and Iran has their campus proxies like these groups like SJP and JVP. That, I mean, look at them. I mean, this is literally like a demonstration in Tehran, and you can't believe it's happening in Morningside Heights. So, as you know, President Shafiq testified before.
Thank you, Jesus, for humans like this man, Jonathan Greenblatt of the Anti-Defamation.
Thank you, Jesus. You know, a lot of these conspiracy theory type of deals, the way these people think, they're so complicated, you know? It's like, and they can, somehow it makes sense in their mind that Hezbollah can infiltrate college campuses across the United States with Hamas sympathizers, or, you know, people who are they're funded by Hamas or they're funded by Soros or whatever, just to be on the college campus to you know, protest the Israel-Hamas war. All across the nation, these colleges are infiltrated with Hezbollah folks, Iran folks, people from Tehran. They've infiltrated all of the colleges across the nation enough to have these massive protests on all of these different college campuses, and, you know, just to, you know, make Israel look bad or whatever. Like, I'm speechless because there's a lot of moving parts here. There's a lot of moving parts here. You are saying that Hamas or Iran or even Soros is so powerful and influential that they can have students enroll in colleges, go to classes, and hang out and wait until the time is right to spring protests across the nation, and countless colleges and universities across the United States. This is what you're saying? Wow. Hamas is powerful as hell, bro. Powerful as hell. Iran, powerful, bro. Hezbollah, powerful, bro. Like, if they're that powerful, then why haven't they defeated Israel at this point? You know, I mean, his comment, his caption, he says, "The truth shall set you free." So thank Jesus. The truth shall set you free. Well, the truth, according to you, is extremely complicated, has a lot of moving parts, and is pretty damn like a miracle. So I guess it's a miracle. Comment, it says, "Me so disappointed in you. I thought you would be a little bit more smarter than that and be able to distinguish real information from propaganda. I guess they don't teach you that in law school, or you haven't learned that in life either." You know, and a lot of these people are really smart, man. So that tells me that they are being dishonest when they do stuff like this. Like, they know where their, where the power is. They know how to get ahead in their career. They know how to make more money. So you choose that side that's going to provide you with those things. And the populace that have low media literacy aren't able to decipher that you are not being genuine. A lot of times what they always say is that these people are, they're incompetent or they're ignorant or whatever, they don't know things. And I just can't go with that. Like, that might be the case in some situations, but for the most part, no. Like, Donald Trump getting to where he's gotten in the world, he couldn't have done that by being incompetent. Okay, like, having a rich family to set you up helps. I'm not gonna lie, but that is only gonna take you so far. You're gonna have to know some things. Biden was in Congress like his whole life, was able to become president or whatever. Like, you can't accomplish all of this by not knowing things, by being ignorant. Okay, I'm sorry. So that's what people want to say. Biden is ignorant, he's incompetent, he's stupid or whatever. No, I'm sorry. Like, and I'm not saying this about Biden or Trump to defend them. The contrary is true. The stuff that they do is intentional. Okay, they know things. They know what the results are gonna be of the things that they do. They know which side to go with. They know what buttons to push. They know what to say that's gonna get the reaction that they want to get. You know what I mean? Like, it's a cop-out to say that these people are incompetent. The Congress is incompetent. The Speaker of the House is incompetent. Nancy Pelosi she's no longer Speaker, but she's incompetent. Kamala Harris, incompetent. And this is what I see a lot going down my timeline. But you have to be manipulated to think that way, because there's no way these people can get into these positions without knowing stuff. Now, there are some exceptions, very far and few between. Another comment says, "Wait, are you being sarcastic?" That's what I was thinking. I swear to God, when I was listening to him talk, I thought this was a skit. Another comment that says, "Can't take you seriously with the hair. I bet your stylist said you look fabulous." Another comment says, 90% of the comments don't realize your sarcasm. Is it sarcasm? I hope so. Another comment, it says, "Here, I was thinking you're an intelligent attorney. Then you start with this BS. You know he's right. I'm following." Another one, it says, "The satanic Zionists are on a different wave level of creating alternate realities." Another comment says, Bruh, he got a Karen cut. Yeah, what's up with that hair? Bruh, do something with the hair, bro. It's not working. It's not working for me. That's not it. It's I look like I woke up like this for me. Another comment says, does he feel the same way about people protesting in Israel? Another one that says, either people are so effed up by everything that's happening that they are too blind to recognize satire and sarcasm, or you're not funny like that. I do appreciate like the angles and content though. Stick to workers' comp, bro. So yeah, I mean, I was talking about this too before on the show. It's like, what is it? The Onion. The Onion makes sarcasm, you know, satire news all the time. It's hilarious. I love it, you know, but in today's media state, the ridiculous stories that come from, you know, serious media outlets make it so the satire stories are, it's hard to distinguish the difference, basically, is what I'm trying to say. You know, even with someone who has media literacy, it is difficult because some of the stories are so ridiculous that it has to be a skit, it has to be a joke, but it's not. So when someone is making a joke, you know, we gotta, it's hard for us to know that it's a joke. You know, it really is difficult. It really is. Like, this person, they can't be serious. And that's how I feel all the time. I'm watching news stories. Like, they can't be serious. Let's do a little bit of this. It says, breaking, X has suspended Nelson Mandela's grandson, and he's about to set off on the Freedom Flotilla to take aid to Gaza. So account suspended. It says, the same people who persecuted Nelson Mandela are attacking his grandson in the same fight for freedom and self-determination. It's so many parallels to South Africa and Israel. Is crazy. So many. It says, I guess Ian, a South African, doesn't forgive Mandela for ending apartheid. See, it's so many like parts that keep coming back around. Like, that's so crazy. And so you wouldn't be surprised that that Ian would take the side that he takes, because, you know, he benefited, his family benefited greatly from apartheid. That's what made him who he is. And when you're talking about freedom of speech, so I saw a post from Ian. I follow Ian on X, and he posted, he said, isn't X so much better than Twitter? And I was thinking, I haven't really noticed much of a difference. That's my immediate response to that comment. But it's like, he was supposed to be like, you know, we're going to make this a place for freedom of speech, you know. So then if that's the case, then you're not going to silence people who have views that you don't agree with. Well, we're looking at this. It says X suspended Nelson Mandela's grandson as he's about to set off on a freedom flotilla to take aid to Gaza. So looking at that, it's like he's taking a side. You know, X is supposed to be the place of free speech. Then why would anybody's account get suspended? It says, Eon, X is a free speech platform. Also, Eon, throw the protesters in jail. X banning Nelson's son. Are we really surprised? So yeah, the protesters on the college campuses, and that's what the media is saying too, you know, lock them up. I mean, what these presidents of these schools, you know, defund them, fire them, or whatever. They can't control their college campuses or whatever. They're just letting this anti-Semitism just run rampant on their campuses or whatever. And it's like these people are doing like protests carrying flyers and laying in tents and stuff. And it's like, you know, do you believe in free speech or not? Like, you have to stand somewhere. Like, where do you stand on it? If you do believe in free speech, then someone saying stuff that you don't agree with, you have to allow them to do that. That's the whole point of it. Okay, so the moment someone is saying stuff that you don't agree with, then now you no longer agree with free speech. Throw the protesters in jail. They're saying stuff we don't want them to say. You know, and it's like the whole Batman thing. I've been thinking about this, and I've said it before in the show, like Elon Musk. I think of Elon Musk as like Batman, okay? And I also feel like Batman is not necessarily a good guy, you know? Vigilante justice is not what we want in the streets, you know? In the movie, it's cool because it's in the movie, but if it's in real life, if there was a real life Batman choosing to hold people accountable on his own reconnaissance, people would be like, that's crazy. Like, this isn't Mad Max. We have a law system in place to take care of that. Okay. People can't just take the law in their hands. And, you know, they're a really rich person. They have a lot of money and influence. And then whatever they care about the most, or whatever, whoever they feel are doing something bad, then that's what they're going to, are they actually on a moral standing ground? And then you think about this, like a billionaire buying a big media platform like Twitter, like Bezos did the Washington Post. You know, are they doing this because they want to have free speech, or, you know, or are they just doing it because they want to have their a greater influence on the narrative of this, that, or the other, you know, and controlling what the narrative is, you know? Making sure that they look good, you know, and making sure that they're burying stuff that makes them look bad. There was a story that came out recently. They were talking about the National Enquirer and Trump, and how, you know, this guy works at the National Enquirer, had meetings with Trump, and they, you know, I'm sure there was money involved. He buried stories that were bad for Trump and promoted stories that were good. So he would go out and buy the story that was bad for Trump and then not run the story so that it gets buried, you know, and then go and look for stories that were good for Trump and publish those. So we already have media monopolies. It's only a few media organizations left, you know, and then you got billionaires buying up certain ones, and it's like journalism is dead, man. It's like free speech is dead. One good thing I heard come out in the news was the new net neutrality deal. So apparently, from what I was reading, is that they're going to go back and undo what they did with the net neutrality deals. Because what it was they could slow down certain things, speed up other things, charge people to get their stuff sped up, push certain stuff and hide other stuff, you know, on the internet, and it's totally legal. And so they're saying that they're gonna try to undo that. I hope it's true. If it is true, then we should notice differences in our algorithms, you know, because, you know, I produce content and I know that I'm shadow banned. Like, people be saying that all the time. Oh, I'm shadow banned. No, I know that because I look at the analytics all the time. I study the analytics, and I have 2 YouTube channels. Okay. So the main YouTube channel, it doesn't get any views. Even on the reels, I post reels, they get 0 views. On the backup channel, I post reels, they get hundreds, thousands of views. That channel isn't as shadow banned as my main channel. The main channel has like 11, like, you know, 1.2K view subscribers or whatever. And, you know, also I know because I get notifications because I follow myself. So I get notifications that I've posted a video on my backup channel. I get notifications that say, you know, it's a video or whatever. It shows on my feed or whatever. I don't get them from my main channel at all, ever. Like, I mean, I used to. It's probably been more than 6 months, close to a year since I was getting views, and I would get notifications that I posted a video. But now I never see a notification that a new video. And that's part of the reason why I've been editing a lot less lately. I was putting a lot of effort in this channel, and I was hoping to get it monetized within this time frame. That was my plan, and it didn't work out. And I noticed that I'm like up against impossible. So, you know, I'm not going to stop doing what I'm doing, you know, because this is like therapy for me. But at the same time, you know, I know that, you know, this stuff is not, no one's seeing it. So I'm not going to put so much effort into editing, clipping videos, knowing that no one's going to see it. Comment, it says, now it makes sense why the richest man on earth bought the powerful social media in the world. Yeah. Not about free speech, it's about controlling the narrative. Joyanne Reed posted it. She said, filed under apartheid irony, white South African whose country then leaders persecuted Nelson Mandela under the apartheid bans Mandela's grandson from his free speech platform for taking up his grandfather's position, supporting freedom and justice for Palestinians. Another comment, it says, get off X, don't buy Teslas, protest Elon until he gives up controlling interest in the mall, take away his power. That's not going to do anything. Like, you can get off X, that's fine. There's going to be plenty of other people that's going to get on. Don't buy Teslas, whatever. You know, he's really good at marketing. It's that bougie thing. I'm better than you type of deal. You know, I'm holier than thou. I'm looking out for the environment and you're not type of deal. Like, whether it's true or not, that is the appeal to the Teslas. So it appeals to a certain segment of our society, and it's great marketing. It works. So yeah, there's, you know, whatever. You can say don't buy Teslas. There's going to be plenty of people that's going to do it. It says protest Elon until he gives up controlling interest in the mall. How are you going to protest Elon? What are you going to do to do that? Like, and then this guy doesn't care. Like, he's like, what, number 2 richest person in the world? Something like that. I know he's top 5. He might be number 1. You know, that there's a lot of power that comes with that. So like, everything he does can fail, and he still will be influential, and he'd still be Batman. Another comment says, Elon Musk has continually shown what he really is. Believe him. You know, and earlier I played the clip of Elon Musk when he was talking about, he was basically saying the great replacement theory is just not true, you know, and I have to support him on that. You know, that's the thing with us. We want to be partisan, and we want to feel like certain people are wrong all the time or whatever. Like, I don't agree with Elon Musk on a lot of things, but there are some things that I do agree on him with. And that's one that I did, where he was saying, you know, it's really about lower birth rates, and it's not about the immigration, you know. And the reason why I covered that is because I was really kind of surprised that he took that take on that topic, because I expected him to go the other way on that. Another comment, it says racism is thriving on X. And, you know, without him saying it, you know, like I said, racism is what's behind that immigration deal. And you know, he didn't say it in his post, but it was like the lady was saying that it was racism, and he was pushing back on that. Well, the lady was saying that, you know, it's white people getting replaced or whatever, and he was pushing back on that. So I feel like, reading between the lines, that he's supporting that, you know, that immigration thing is basically racist, and that it's not you know, the racism is not, you know, like what people think it is not. And what it really is lower birth rates. One more comment says the current owner of X, an Afrikaner and son of a family who benefited from South African apartheid, is suspending the grandson of Nelson Mandela for being an ally against apartheid and genocide in Gaza. Sounds about right for a white supremacist and his company. Says this is why we need TikTok. Yeah, so TikTok, it looking like it's gonna go. It's gonna be litigation. I want to say Biden signed it, so it's a done deal. Except it's gonna have to go through the courts, and ByteDance is gonna fight it through the courts. But ByteDance is saying that, you know, they lose the litigation, then they're gonna not be in the United States. And they were saying that the main reason why they're not gonna sell is because of their algorithm. The algorithm that they use in TikTok is what makes the platform successful, and they don't want to give up that proprietary information. So yeah, it's looking like we're not going to have TikTok in the United States at some point. It's going to take a while for this to, you know, complete or conclude, but maybe a year from now or less, no more TikTok in the United States. You know, and I don't think that it's what they're saying it is about what do they say is, you know, the data, they're still in the data. It's about security. I don't believe that. I believe it's competition. You know, again, we have monopolies, and we love monopolies over here, and we don't like competition. And TikTok is like competition for, you know, Meta and Google, you know, so they don't want that. You know, they got advertising dollars that TikTok is gobbling up, and they want those advertising dollars, you know, to go to these American companies, quote unquote American companies, because Google doesn't care about the United States. Meta do not care about the United States at all. Okay. And TikTok gonna be all right. I mean, it's a lot of people in the world, bro. Like, how many people are in China and India? Wait a minute, was it India who? There's another country who banned TikTok. Anyways, they'll be fine. TikTok will be fine. You know, they should learn from TikTok and try to figure out what they were doing with their algorithm. They already was copying them with, you know, you see the Reels, Instagram Reels and YouTube Reels or whatever, trying to copy what TikTok does, but they're not nearly as good as TikTok. So I think it has to do with what actually pops up on the feed when you're scrolling. And they just can't seem to get that right with the Instagram Reels and the YouTube Reels, but whatever. You know, I'm not a fan of TikTok, and I don't have a dog in that race. You know, I really don't like TikTok at all, but I disagree with banning TikTok on the, you know, on the stance related to free speech. You know, the more we're limiting the ability of people to have a voice, the more we're, you know, taking away free speech, the more we're taking away from other perspectives that we could be getting. You know, one of the reasons people are saying that they're getting rid of TikTok is because on TikTok, you get information that you don't get from other places or whatever, on news stories and whatever. You know, there's a documentary show coming out on, I can't think of which streaming network it is, but it's talking about these people who investigated a murder that happened, I want to say in the UK. And, you know, these internet detective folks, I be making fun of that all the time, but the police couldn't figure out what happened. But all of these internet sleuths and it was through TikTok. They went on TikTok and they, you know, it was trending and it went viral. And so many of these TikTok content producers were digging into this particular murder case that happened that didn't have any, they couldn't figure out what happened. The police didn't know what happened. The damn TikTok folks broke the damn case open. So what I'm saying is, you know, I don't like TikTok, but banning it is wrong. It's not good for free speech. It's not good for, you know, our environment, our media health, the health of our media. Next comment says, this is why we need TikTok. I already read that. Says, so glad I don't support anything Elon Musk. I don't like them kind of comments right there. Like, this is where we are, though, you know, depending on the personality, we get to say, like, Biden is dumb and the Democrats are stupid and whatever they do is dumb. And, you know, I can't support none of it. You know, if Trump becomes president, the world's going to come to an end. And, you know, the guy's an idiot. And, I can't support anything that he tries to do. And it's like, I disagree with that on both sides. You know, and I'm not a fan of Biden or Trump. I can't bring myself to vote for stir-fried shit or baked shit. But at the same time, Biden says things that are good or has policies that are good, and Trump too. I think the difference is not as vast as people want to say it is. You know, I think that the American people are going to lose regardless if Biden or Trump wins. They're going to lose regardless. And things are going to keep on going in the direction that they have been going in, regardless of those two win. You know, I don't think there's anybody that can really get in there and make a real difference because, you know, the state of affairs are so far gone. And, you know, you got to take money out of politics. You got to change the culture of politics. You got to change the way people think. You got to get some media literacy in these people. You have to get the media with some real competition and have some real journalists. Like, there's a long ass list. The Supreme Court is a mess. Like, I mean, bro, we are in a quite a pickle. And who is the president's impact on this situation is going to be not very much. Check this out. It says the attacks on DEI are peak fragility. Can y'all hear me? Attacks on DEI are peak fragility. Historically, white men are 98% of POTUS, 98% of U.S. Senate, 94% of SCOTUS, 91% of U.S. House, 90% of U.S. CEOs, but 30% of the population. Imagine being so afraid of the mere idea of equal justice for non-white men, you criminalize it. It says Republican lawmakers in more than 30 states have introduced or passed more than 100 bills to either restrict or regulate diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives in the current legislative session, according to NBC News analysis. It reminds me of that old saying, when you've had privilege your entire life, equality feels like oppression. It says, FYI, to be clear, my usage of not white men means all women too, as women are long denied equal access in this country. Yeah, it just so happened that white men are just the most qualified for these positions. You know, it just makes sense. Comment says, we are pro-democracy and we will continue to push America to become her most noble idea, a multicultural, equitable, just society, Justice Democrats. You know, I think that I was watching a video and they were saying that, you know, and a lot of these people always talk about the Constitution, the Constitution, the Constitution. I think that the state of affairs, the Constitution has led to the present state of affairs. And it wasn't by accident. You know, I think that it was built into it. When they wrote the Constitution, they didn't have any intention of people who weren't land owning white men to have power, really. You know, they didn't really believe in democracy per se. You know, it's like, we're like, well, it's a republic. Okay, it is a republic. And the state of politics right now is as a result of the Constitution. And you could say the Constitution had flaws in it, but I think that they were written in there on purpose so that things can be the way that they are right now. So we want to act like the Constitution is infallible or whatever, you know. I used to think that way. And like a lot of the stuff is good. You know, it has some really good stuff in there. But I think that they didn't mean it the way that those words come out. Like, what did it say? Truth, justice for all men, something like that. I'm getting tired, and I've been talking a lot. So, and I don't want to misquote the Constitution, but it's, you know, all men. They didn't really mean all men. Like other phrases that are in there that sound really good, but they didn't mean it in that way that we hear it today. If that makes any sense. Call me crazy. Let me read this. It says, I would argue that existence of DEI is the real peak fragility. There once was a time that fighting for equality meant fighting for equality, not advantages. Now it means ignoring progress for the purpose of serving your narrative, distorting current reality for the purposes of your narrative, demonizing the offspring of ethnicities, genders, religions that are not formally oppressed, and trying to force your viewpoint on people that are otherwise already share your desire for equality. Using historical numbers is your way of distorting what is happening now. So let me educate your followers. We're currently in the 118th Congress, and it is the most racially and ethnically diverse Congress in history, and the trend is only growing. 29% of the House are women, 28% are non-white. Ending Citizens United, penalizing gerrymandering, and adding term limits will most likely accelerate this trend because unlike corporate America, the people choose who serves. 33% of SCOTUS are non-white. Yes, you have to count Clarence Thomas, even though he doesn't align to your agenda. And 40% are female. There are only one female Fortune 500 CEO in 2000, but there are 52 now. There was a time for programs like Affirmative Action and DEI, but these programs require updating and should not remain active in perpetuity. At this point, they are creating more division than inclusion, and posts like yours that ignore the current reality do not help bring people together. Quite the opposite, it sows division. I'll close by saying that I'm probably not what you think. I am anti-discrimination, anti-hate, pro-tolerance, and absolutely all for diversity in government and equity and justice. Okay, so, but, all right. You could say that things have improved, and nobody can argue with you on that. But that a lot of that was as a result. The reason why Clarence Thomas is who he is was as a result of affirmative action. Okay, so you're using the results of DEI to give reasons why DEI shouldn't exist. Okay, so that's a circular logic right there. I know you're a smart guy, whoever you are, with this long-winded comment that you made, but your logic isn't making sense in the fact that the reason why things have improved is because of the policies that they have put in place. Now, if you push back on those policies that have been put in place, then things are going to go backwards. I know it doesn't matter. They ain't gonna. People already have their views on this stuff. Doesn't matter what I say. Facts, logic, what are those? Oh yeah, this is a crazy story, y'all. Check this out.
Tonight involves a common saying, you do the crime, you do the time.
But when people are released from prison, it marks the start of new hardships impacting local families and communities.
And new tonight, I-Team investigator Kylie McGivern digs into a Florida law many don't even know about. It's called pay to stay, charging inmates like Shelby Hoffman for their prison sentence, even if they're released early and regardless of their ability to pay.
I work 12-hour shifts, so they're 7 to 7.
Hoffman is part of TGH Crystal River's clinical staff.
The healthcare field has always been, of great interest to me.
She's worked to get to where she's at, but once more, she's on track to earn her bachelor's degree this year.
My desirable goal is to work in case management. As somebody who is in recovery, doing case management is my way of being a part of the solution. And now, where I'm at today, I am truly being stopped by one single barrier, and it is a dollar sign.
The state of Florida had what is called an exemption from disqualification, and they told me that you are not eligible because you owe over $127,000 for an incarceration fee from the state of Florida.
What was your reaction?
I cried. I was hysterically crying. I literally felt like my entire past just punched me in the face. When I was 13, my parents split up. So it caused, a lot of dysfunction, a lot of misdirection in the household. So I found a boyfriend that unfortunately got me hooked on opiates, snorting them, smoking them, and then eventually, I started shooting them.
And this was all while you were a teenager?
Yes.
After turning 18, Hoffman was charged with a third-degree felony.
I had pawned something that, was stolen.
Then a burglary charge.
Both of those charges are drug influenced. Ever since, 10 years ago, I've never caught another charge. I told him, I said, listen, Your Honor, you keep putting me on the streets, I'm going to die. I need help.
Hoffman was sentenced to the Phoenix House for a year, but did not complete the program.
The director kicked me out.
Because of that, the judge sentenced Hoffman to 7 years in prison. She served 10 months, the judge allowing her to participate in a youth offender boot camp.
I had paid everything off. I petitioned the courts to get off of probation. He clapped for me and said, you above anybody deserve this. Congratulations, Ms. Hoffman. I've taken pictures with him, given him a hug, and he wrote me a handwritten Christmas card telling me he knew I could do it. I finally felt like, the book was closed. Your redemption is complete.
Within 3 years, when applying for that exemption to work in case management, her dream job, Hoffman found out that she, like thousands of others, still owes the state $50 a day for the 7 years of her original sentence, $127,750.
You charged me for a cell that I didn't occupy? I felt so tricked and so fooled. There is no ladder with them that will ever truly allow you to be a second chance anything. There isn't. And they make sure of it.
Hoffman's grandmother, Linda, helped pay off what she said was thousands of dollars in other fines and fees.
We thought everything was taken care of. I must not understand it right. I've probably got this wrong, but no, I didn't.
Hoffman hired an attorney in an attempt to modify her incarceration costs to the 10 months she served. The judge denied the motion, pointing to state law. A court may not modify a legal sentence imposed by it more than 60 days after the imposition, and incarceration costs are based upon the length of the sentence imposed by the court at the time of sentencing.
You are imposing something that I can't pay off in a lifetime. So I'm stuck.
How is this possible?
We think it's unconstitutional.
Lisa Foster, co-executive director of the Fines and Fees Justice Center based in Washington, D.C.
Florida charges a lot of fines and fees.
Says it violates the excessive fines clause.
Because it's not proportionate either to the underlying offense or to a person's financial circumstances. In Shelby's case, what happens is she's saddled with over $120,000 of debt to the state of Florida that is a life sentence.
I have a family now. Like, I have a daughter, a wonderful husband. I have a home. I have all of these accomplishments that I have worked so hard to maintain. And to not be given the opportunity to have a realistic, reasonable, obtainable goal to rectify all of that, that is why this is important.
Since 2019, Illinois and New Hampshire have repealed their pay-to-stay laws for state prisons. Here in Florida last session, the Fines and Fees Justice Center worked with lawmakers on a bill that would have allowed judges to do an ability to pay assessment when imposing fines and fees. It failed. With photojournalist Randy Wright, I'm my team investigator Kylie McGivern, taking action for you.
Our main story tonight.
Man, what a horrible freaking story. They can charge you $50 a day for being in jail? Like, what the hell? Aren't they already making money off of you for being there? Like, that's just greedy and mean. Like, wow, like, unbelievable. Florida, man. I wouldn't be surprised if Texas has something similar. I had never heard of nothing like this before. I didn't know that this was a thing. Like, shit, remind me not to get locked up for nothing. I mean, bruh, $50 a day for your whole sentence that you were originally given. She only did, like, what they say, 7 months or something like that. And they charged her for the whole freaking time, you know, for her stay, $50 a day, like, for the bed or whatever. Like, and they're going to just put more people in there. Like, oh my God. But no wonder why they open in so many prisons. That is a lucrative ass business. Remind me to freaking invest in some damn prisons. I mean, I'm just joking, but because I don't want to be a part of nothing like that. But at the same time, like, if you didn't care about the, you know, the morality of it, to prison would be an investment. Let's read this. It says it's called pay to stay, charging inmates for their prison stay like a hotel they were forced to book. Florida law says that cost $50 a day is based on the person's sentence, even if they are released early, paying for a cell they no longer occupy, and regardless of their ability to pay. Not only can the state bill an inmate the $50 a day, and even after they are released, Florida can also impose a new bill on the next occupant of that bed, potentially allowing the state to double, triple, or quadruple charge for the same bed. They told me that you are not eligible because you owe over $127,000 for an incarceration fee from the state of Florida, Hoffman said. I cried. I was hysterically crying. I literally felt like my entire past had punched me in the face. Crazy. Double, triple, quadruple money for them. It's a comment. It says, this is a method to keep folks poor, homeless, jobless, indebted to the state or private prison. It sounds like slavery to me. Sounds a lot like slavery. Like you can never escape. Run, run, run. Can't run for, you can run forever. Still. Comment. It says, how about don't commit crimes? So, you know, hey, you could say don't commit crimes. All right, I can go with that. I mean, like, she obviously did something that she wasn't supposed to do or whatever. She broke the law or whatever. She robbed for some people or whatever. And I don't condone that behavior. But she went to prison. She did her time. Like, should she have to pay for the rest of her life for something that she did? Like, is that, you know, is that not like cruel and unusual punishment? And what about the people who go to jail and who are innocent? Our freaking our law enforcement, like, what am I trying to say? Our criminal justice system is not very it doesn't do a good job all the time. Okay, innocent people go to jail all the time. Guilty people get out all the time. So it's kind of like, what it sounds like to me is it's an attack on poor folks, because the person who has money to pay for the best attorney or whatever can get out of murder charges. I was talking to a guy who comes to the restaurant. He's a regular, and he's a lawyer. He's one of the top lawyers in Houston. Because I was talking to him because I was thinking about going to law school. I'm kind of thinking about it still. I'm definitely going to graduate school, but I think I'm going to pursue education. That's where I'm at, because I had another conversation with some other lawyers. A lot of lawyers come to this restaurant. I don't really know why, but anyways, I was like, I'm on the fence about going into law or education. And it was two lawyers sitting at the table, and they were like, does the world need more lawyers or more teachers? So that kind of answered my question or whatever. Like, it kind of pushed me in a certain direction or whatever. But anyways, the other lawyer guy who I was talking to, he was telling me about these lawyers that are so good that they can get you off. Like, it would take me a long time to really explain it, because he told me a number of stories. And these were incidents that actually happened. And this guy had inside knowledge. These were his friends, colleagues. And he was telling me the information about multiple cases. There was a case where the guy, he killed his daughter. He thought that there was an intruder or something like that. And he killed his daughter. And he called the lawyer after it happened or whatever. He got the best lawyer or whatever. They had all kinds of evidence. They had video evidence. They had, like, it should have been a slam dunk of him being guilty. That's the reason why he was telling me this particular story. But that lawyer got him off of that case. He got found not guilty. He didn't go to jail for that murder. And he committed that murder. And it was crazy amount of evidence. Like, crazy amount of evidence. It should have been a slam dunk case for him to go to jail. And he did not. So, that's the same reason why I'm not a fan of capital punishment, because if beyond a reasonable doubt someone was guilty and you want to put them to death, is cool as long as our justice system is good enough for us to have faith that we executed the right person or the guilty party or whatever. And I don't have enough faith in our system that we're not going to be executing innocent folks. If one person is executed that was innocent, then that's a reason enough to not have the death penalty. Okay? If there's a chance for one person to be killed that didn't commit those crimes, then that's a reason to not have the death penalty. That's how I feel about that. So again, this guy says, how about don't commit crimes? And I'm like, how about the people who go to jail who didn't do anything? And like, that doesn't happen. It's like everybody in jail says they're innocent. Well, some of those people actually are. They didn't have money for a lawyer. Most cases don't even go to trial. They're pleas. And the lawyers are going to come to you and they're going to be like, hey, they're going to put you to jail forever. They might put you on death row. You better take this plea, and you're like, man, I didn't even do nothing. Well, hey, when you get in there, you got this this state appointed attorney who's got like 336 cases he's doing. And, he's paid very little and, he's not very competent. The other guy on the state side is paid a lot, only has a few cases on his load, and he, his job is to get you convicted. So you could possibly lose. You don't want to take that risk, so take this plea. A lot of people are going to take that plea, even if they're innocent. And you're like, well, you must have did something if you ended up in jail, or you must have did something if you ended up in that situation where they're charging you with some kind of case. You could have been in the wrong place at the wrong time. You could have had the wrong name. You could have had the wrong friends. You could have had the wrong job. Any of those things could wind you up in those situations. Another comment says, wait, so those prisons stay full. She's being charged for a cell. She wasn't in for 6 years, but you better believe it didn't stay vacant. They likely put someone else in that cell who was also paying $50 a day for the same bed. That is illegal. Like the greatest scam you can come up with right here. Legal ass scam. These private, I bet you it's private prisons too. You know, there's so much shadiness that goes on related to the prisons. Like the populations of the prisons count towards the districts, and they don't get to vote, but it gives that district the power of their vote. And they like to arrest people in urban areas and move them to they arrest people in inner city areas and they move them to urban areas, and then that population helps the voting power of that urban area. And those, you know, they don't get any say, they don't get to vote. I'll read some more. It says, this is indentured servitude. The people saying don't do crimes as if innocent people have never been locked up. Another one says, maybe, just maybe, don't go to jail. Another one says, how does an incarcerated person even pay that ever? Yeah, that's the plan. Like, they know you're not going to be able to pay it ever. I wonder if it gains interest. This is sickening. Another comment says, this is sickening. She was a child that was on drugs. And to anyone saying stay out of jail, when it happens to someone you love, I hope the feeling is mutual. Another comment says, anyone saying stay out of jail understands this young woman's story is as heartless as the devil who still has keys to the locks. Another comment says, prisons are businesses. Another one says, the comments saying they like this or just stay out of jail are the problem. Another one that says, total modern slavery, out of control. Another one that says, this is the same thing they did to black people when slaves were freed. They had nowhere to go with nothing. The slave owners charged the people to stay on the land and in the houses they were in, or sold them a part of the land to farm on. They charged the high prices they would never be able to pay off. They had them work it off, which literally kept them as slaves. Prisoners don't have jobs, and even the ones that are trustees don't make enough to pay that. This is insane. This country is moving backwards, and nobody's trying to stop it. Another comment says, they already make money off of you being in there. Now they want to tax the prisoners. America, child, what more do you want? And how about y'all release everyone wrongfully in prison, especially from the 70s and 90s, and whomever is locked up for weed, which is clearly legal now. Another comment says, I'm convinced that Florida is its own country. Yeah, that's a crazy story right there, man. Crazy, crazy, crazy. I bet you there's no way for her to, like, she's so screwed. You know, trying to go through the bureaucracy and red tape and stuff to try to get out of that situation, like, she's screwed. It says millennials are the best educated yet worst paid generation in U.S. history. It says a recent article summed up the plight of millennials quite well. They are the most highly educated generation. 27% have bachelor's or higher, yet their median annual earnings are about $2,000 less than their counterparts in 1980. Their net worth is less than prior generations at the same age. Millennials are dipping into their savings for any crisis. They are not participating in 401k plans or investing on their own. The crash of 2008 settled that for this generation. Their student loan debt is a whopping average of $35,000 with minimum payments. That debt will be with 70% of current college grads for years to come. For non-college grads, the picture is even bleaker. With the permanent loss of manufacturing jobs, they have few options for employment. They will keep them in middle-class lifestyle. Yeah, man. Most educated group, yet worst paid in U.S. history. Yeah, man, we got screwed. The bright side, Millennials are wonderful people. They value social causes, less stressful work environments, and lifestyles that promote non-work interests, activities, hobbies, relationships, and the pursuit of their passions. They don't believe they are the lost generation. They believe they have found their priorities. Many are also not optimistic about their financial futures. Rather than condemning millennials, older generations need to seek ways to relieve them of the burdens they did not bring upon themselves. It makes me think about student loans, and then they talk about this, you know, the student loans, they shouldn't have got loans or whatever. It's like, oh, yeah, but they were sold a wolf ticket. They were sold a dream, you know, that if they get this education, they'll be able to, you know, get a good job and live a good life or whatever, and be able to pay those loans off. But that happened. You know, and then, you know, they talk about forgiving student loans, and they're like, no, they can't do that on my dime. I made sacrifices and paid for my school, so you're disenfranchising me if you pay their student loans off. Another comment says, but they're the softest and spoiled generation ever too. I don't know about that. Maybe it's true as it goes on. People, you know, because the ones that came after Generation Z, I say that they are freaking soft and spoiled as hell. You know, my kids are soft and spoiled. I ain't gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. You know, lazy as hell. It bothers the hell out of me, and I don't know what to do about it. I really don't. But so maybe each generation gets a little softer. I know. Maybe it has to do with, you know, progress, you know. You know, evolution is real too. It continues to happen so that they're smarter. So you can't say that they're not. Like, these kids are wily. They kind of scare me. You know, the teenagers now, they scare me. But they're smart. They're really smart. So, I mean, maybe it's just that they look at the world different from us, you know? Another comment says, boomers could work in a gas station for 6 months and buy a 4-bedroom house, and decided to destroy the economy and country so the younger generations wouldn't have their advantages, and now bash them, calling them lazy and spoiled, like they themselves didn't inherit the economy from their war vet parents when they were toddlers. You know, a lot of blame on the boomers I don't agree with. You know, I don't think that they purposely, you know, destroyed the economy or whatever, you know. A lot of them don't benefit from the state of affairs of the economy today either. You know, a lot of them are going through it too as a result of, you know, the way things are now. You know, I think they also couldn't have predicted how things would go. You know, a lot of blame has to go to the corporations. Another comment, it says, I wouldn't say woke education is actual education. Man, if you didn't go to college, bro, shut the hell up. Woke education. So every freaking college or university is teaching quote unquote woke education. Is that what's happening? Everybody that's going to school and getting a degree and all the different things that you could get a degree in are getting woke education. There goes those conspiracy theories that are so many moving parts and so complicated that there's no effing way that it could be true. Like, everybody's in on it. Every single college and university, every single professor, every single counselor, they're all in on woke education. I think I'm gonna get out of here. Is there anything else I want to get for sure? This was cool. Let me play this.
I do realize that when you were on the moon, you had very little time for gazing upwards. But could you tell us something about what the sky actually looks like from the moon, the sun, the earth, the stars, if any, and so on?
The sky is a deep black when viewed from the moon, as it is when viewed from cislunar space, the space between the Earth and the moon. The Earth is the only visible object other than the sun that can be seen, although there have been some reports of seeing planets. I myself did not see planets from the surface, but I suspect they might be visible. The Earth is quite beautiful from space and from the moon. It looks quite small and quite remote, but it's very blue and covered with white lace and the clouds, and the continents are clearly seen, although they have very little color from that distance.
What about the sun? Could you see any trace of the corona?
No, the glare from the sun on the helmet visor was too difficult to pick out the corona. The only time we could see the corona was during an eclipse of the sun from the moon. That is, when we were flying through the moon's shadow and could observe the solar
song. I do realize that when you were on the moon,
I can only imagine what it would be like to see the Earth, you know, from, you know, the perspective of the moon or whatever, from not being on the Earth. You know, I think if we were in a position to, then we would realize how precious the Earth is, you know. That's what I get from this little clip right here. It's like, we should be thankful, you know. I think we live on in the Garden of Eden, you know. We have everything that we could ever need, you know. It's like we're so protected. It's got atmosphere, you got oxygen, you got water, you got the protection from radiation. You know, it's like, it's perfect. It's like a womb, you know, that keeps us safe. You know, I just think that we should be thankful. I think that the only prayer that we should have is gratitude. You know, there's no other planet in our solar system that could harbor life for us, as far as we know. You know, it's a miracle. It's like what they say about the Goldilocks zone, you know, just far enough from the sun to have liquid water, you know, in the water existing in the liquid state. Not too close to where it all evaporates and burns up, and not too far that it freezes. Like perfect little distance from the sun. Like, I don't believe in accidents, you know. I really don't. I you know, it's too perfect. It couldn't have been an accident, you know, that we're on this planet and it's perfect distance from the sun for conducive for life. We haven't found any other, you know, the idea of intelligence. I think we get lost into, you know, what we constitute as intelligence and also what we constitute as life. I think we're looking for something that's looks like us, you know, and I think that's why we haven't found it, because we need to expand what we consider as intelligence and what we consider as life. You know, those definitions aren't very accurate. I think that they are from our perspective, and we're not stepping outside of that perspective. And if we did, I think we'd find what but see, like I say, what we're looking for is something that's like us. And, you know, for things to be just like us, it would have to be an environment that's just like the environment that we live on here on the planet Earth. And I just don't think that we'll ever find it, because it's not going to be the same. That's the beauty of the universe. That's the beauty of the Earth. All the diversity, all the different forms of life, you know, plants, bacteria, animals. Some people say fire is a lot. Beauty is in the diversity, you know, the complexity. So we have to embrace diversity. You know, how lame would it be if everybody on the planet spoke the same language and looked the same way and dressed the same way, you know, had the same weight distribution, same facial structures, same hair texture? How lame would it be? You know? Anyways, History Photograph posted this. It says, on July 20th, 1969, Neil Armstrong became the first human to walk on the moon, a monumental accomplishment achieved by the efforts of 400,000 people. Shortly after, Buzz Aldrin joined him as the second person to step onto the lunar surface. In a 1970 BBC interview, Armstrong shared his observations of what he saw from the moon. First comment says, scripted dialogue, no human has ever set foot on the moon, period. I don't know. It's crazy because nowadays when you see something like a news story or whatever, and everybody says fake news, and people say they're like, it's not real, or it's AI or whatever, you know, people just, no matter what, there's going to be someone. I think they didn't tell us the whole truth related to it, but did it happen? Yes, it happened. I mean, whatever. Doesn't matter, man. You still got people saying the earth is flat. So, the earth is flat. Nobody's ever set foot on the moon. And the sun revolves around the earth. I don't know. Anyways, I think I'm gonna get out of here. I'm getting tired. Peace and love. Thank y'all for listening. Thank y'all for joining. Governor Abbott and his talk about the protests. Israel is having protests because they called it a propaganda video that came out. It was a guy who was what's the word I'm looking for? He was one of the hostages, and he said that like 7, 10 hostages or 30, I don't remember what the number was, they were killed by Israeli airstrikes. And that came out, and the Israeli people saw that, lost it, and they're pushing really hard. So it's like, it's not just our government that's, I don't know, totalitarian, if you will, not going by the will of the people. Israel are also subject to their government. You know, a lot of Israelis want this thing to come to an end, and they want peace. Even though even a lot of them are Zionists, they still want peace. You know, they want their family and friends and loved ones to come home, you know. And Hamas said, if y'all recognize the state of Israel, you know, we'll release the hostages and cease fire. They're like, man, we can't recognize Palestine as a state. And Israel people are in the streets. This is another thing that the media is not covering.
Well, there's real tension out on the streets of Jerusalem tonight. You can see the police trying to move away protesters. The protesters are trying to block the roads, and it's come after Hamas released that propaganda video.
Propaganda video. You know, that's what they say, propaganda video. I don't think it was I really don't. I don't think it was a propaganda video. It was just a dude who was a hostage stating the fact. I mean, like, how can they call that a propaganda video that this dude is just saying, you know, hey, you know, other hostages died and it was as a result of airstrikes. How hard is that to believe, as indiscriminate as the airstrikes have been, that some of them will hit some of the hostages? I mean, like, that doesn't sound too far-fetched. It's like the opposite of these conspiracy theory things that are so complicated that you have to believe some complicated thing for it to believe it to be true. This isn't complicated right here. You know, that some of the bombs could have hit some of the hostages.
Hersh Goldberg-Polin, one of the American-Israeli hostages still being held in Gaza. You can see how the strength of feeling is really boiling over. A lot of these people want the political game in their mind to end. They want the Israeli government to do a deal, to get a ceasefire in Gaza and to get those hostages out, because the message from the hostages Families Forum is time is running out for the hostages. And you can see, like, the Prime Minister's residence is down there. Itamar Ben-Gvir, a hardline minister in Netanyahu's government, was up at this building over there. We saw police driving people off the road on horses. There's been a massive, massive police presence all around central Jerusalem tonight. Well, there's real tension.
So it says protests broke out in Jerusalem on Wednesday, calling for the Israeli government to take action after Hamas released a video showing American hostage Hersh Goldberg-Polin, 24, who was captured on October 7th. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Israel is committed to destroying Hamas and bringing the hostages home. So he's like, that's what he's been saying over and over again. We're going to destroy Hamas and bring the hostages home. Okay, can you bring the hostages home and then maybe destroy Hamas after that? Nope, we have to destroy Hamas first and then we could bring the hostages home. What if destroying Hamas destroys the hostages too? Anyways, y'all, let me get out of here. Peace and love. Thank y'all for listening. Thank y'all for joining. We'll be back next week.